I want to read for you something that you wrote for Foreign Policy just a year ago or so. And it was titled, Why Progressives Should Help Defend Ukraine. You go on to say this. In the West's efforts to overcorrect for the United States' past foreign policy failures, we cannot forget the plight of Ukrainians or buy into Russia's own imperialistness. As we look at the foreign aid Ukraine has gotten really over the last year from the West, have they followed your advice?
Well, I'm happy you asked that question. So there are a number of progressive groups that I'm working with directly along with another colleague who have very legitimate concerns about the overreach of American military involvement around the world. And so I think we have to be careful about lumping progressives who have very legitimate concerns about military aid that's going to Ukraine versus those who are bad faith actors. And have people been listening? I would say generally, yes, those of good faith do understand that Ukraine is dealing with an imperial colonial power that's, as far as I'm concerned, is committing genocide. Those are very different from people who go on Twitter, who propagate lies, who propagate mistruths because they're just engaged in rage tweeting. And so I just want to distinguish those differences. But generally, most progressives who are of good faith are definitely supporting Ukraine. It's only those bad ones that are getting all the press.
Bad ones.
Terrell Jermaine Starr, as always, we have appreciated your work.
Welcome to another episode of the Nick and CJ show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, man?
What's poppin', my friends, my family? It's great to be back. Nick and CJ show. And we have that Negro versus the entirety of Africa. CJ, you have the entirety of Africa that look at the Ukraine conflict, and they're like, "Nah, we good, bro. We good on this shit. Fuck that." In fact, South Africa does military drills with Russia. Meanwhile, look at the Negro that they found, the guy who's all in with the people that was spit in his face. You had the Peace Corps that send a message to Black liberals who will be tricked by this propaganda. They're like, "Hey, you don't want to go out here, man. They call Black people monkeys. They might treat you with disrespect, but don't take it personal. They're not used to Black people." That is a very nice way of saying they hate our ass, right? And that's one of the tenets of the Azov Battalion. They want to have Ukraine as a Aryan state. They don't like ethnic Russians. They don't like the Black Muslims that live there. They don't like the Romanis that live there. That is what make the Ukraine proxy war progressives, the NATO left, particularly disgusting, because they virtue signal by saying, "Oh, we care about the Ukrainian people, but not the Black ones, not the 30% of the Ukrainian people that are Russian." And I think I'm lowball. I've been called out for lowballing it, but I do that for a reason, because even if it's only 30%, that's a large amount.
Right.
That's a large amount. You had half the country that speak ethnic Russian before Zelensky and his fascist regime try their best to purge the language. Now you have the fascist regime in Ukraine and their supporters that are banning books. They are book burning. You know, the same thing that liberals are freaking out that Ron DeSantis is doing.
Here, exactly.
That's what they're doing in Ukraine to purge Russia from their culture. And this is the people they cheer on. Meanwhile, there are many Ukrainians, like Zoya, her family, a lot of people that she knows, people in Eastern Ukraine, the people who were part of the referendum that wanted to be part of Russia and the Donbass. These people have, whether you guys agree with it or not, they take pride in their Russian heritage, the same way that people who have slave-owning parents, right? They're proud of yeah. Like, you guys are proud of all the fucked up shit. But they're like, we Russian and we're proud. But the Azov Battalion and the fascist regime in Ukraine, they want to purge those people. They want to ban their language. And Zelensky himself, he said that he wants to engage in an Israel model. He wants to have an Israel model in Ukraine where you have the preferred Aryan Ukrainians who are on top, and then the ethnic Russians who the Azov Battalion and the fascist thugs in Ukraine continue to suppress. But CJ, anything you want to try to make? There's a lot.
Yeah, because I'm going to bring the clip back up. And I guess for our introduction, it's the broader topic of the NATO left. And that's what so obviously the powers that be, CIA, FBI, whoever intelligence agencies that are in social media, they hear what's happening, Nick. Yep. They hear like the conversations we're having about this war. They talking about us, man. What you talking about?
Gray Zone, Jimmy Dore, Combo Couch,
They're talking
the
about
Black Agenda
these
Report.
people.
When they say, oh, there's good faith. Sorry, CJ, I'll let you continue. But when they say there's good faith criticism, you know, the weak shit you hear from like Marianne Williamson or Nina Turner, right? Then he said there's the bad faith actors, the one who nail us against the wall with facts.
Right.
And then you notice in this spill that he never, and they always do this, that he never states what's the lie that comes from the quote unquote bad ones, right?
Bad ones.
But go ahead, CJ.
But you're making the point that I'm making is that, and of course they have to bring on a black dude. If you think it's coincidence that he's black, get the fuck out of here. They know that black people are some of the loudest voices on this social media. Like, what the fuck are we doing over here? Black people, you look at TikTok, a lot of videos we play talking about this war, and then just everybody. So they bring him on, a young black face, to come over here and to say, look, there's progressives who is for this war, and that's who the NATO left is. That's who the majority reports, the Kyle Kulinskis, the people who make excuses, or the people who try to sit on the fence and try to act like, oh, I'm peace. I'm okay with, $60 billion in funding, but I am a peace
there
advocate.
Are people that even more malicious, the people who use leftist language to justify, like Nina Turner. I agree with Biden showing solidarity for the Ukrainian people. Get the fuck out. She literally said that. That's the language they use to justify endless war. And that's very nefarious. But go ahead, CJ.
I never see or hear a tweet of them acknowledging that there's an Azov battalion. I never see or hear them tweeting.
And they used to. Rokana and Ilhan,
I don't understand this. Yeah, I know. I seen that article.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, to your point, we know that they know about it because Ilhan and Rokana used to tweet about it. Rokana famously deleted a tweet that where he was raising the flag about congressional funding for Nazis in Ukraine, but he was calling that out under Trump. Now under Biden, he's all for it. Now they got their marching orders, they're all for it, and that says everything about it, right? And Matt Dustin, just like this guy here, they do nothing but lie about it. And they said the people who tell them the truth, the people that will tell you the history, the people that will tell you the fact that this war didn't even start last year. The something that the NATO chief secretary,
faith actors,
Jens Stoltenberg, even he said a lot of people don't know this, but this war actually started in 2014. But then we say that, and then they say, "Oh my God, you guys been bad faith. How dare you guys repeat facts?" And then the NATO left pretends these facts don't exist. They do this shit where they pretend they don't see it. You know that?
Yeah.
Like
Matt does that. Matt does that in the interviews. He'll go on these interviews or these debates, I guess, on Democracy Now, and he clearly knows evidence. I think this was Ray McGovern was one of them when he pointed out. He was like, "Yeah, you said this, but this," and he was like, "Yeah, okay." He had to acknowledge it. They're counting on the fact that you don't know a lot. But to your point about the NATO left, Matt Duss represents what this guy is also doing. It's a completely flipping of the understanding of the narrative of what a leftist is, and they keep changing the meaning. And Bernie Sanders stands. Don't get mad. Bernie Sanders is part of the people that's flipping this understanding of what it means to be. So, I'm progressive and I'm anti-war, but I'm sending money to Ukraine. It's the twisting of the understanding, and it just keeps going left and left. And Marianne Williamson is a candidate that's going to move it more right. Believe it or not, when we're talking about war, she's a candidate that's going to be yay to everything that's happening in Ukraine, with the caveat of that makes her left. This is all you got to do to make you left if you're pro-war. But I'm not for no blank check. That's all you got to say. Just say you're not for a blank check.
There was a tweet by Marianne Williamson where and you can tell that she really getting in campaign mode because her tweets sound more like speeches now.
Yes.
And she had this long tweet where she's talking about, we need someone to stand up against corruption. And I'm like, you're not even standing up against the corruption of the Ukraine war. You fight against corruption, but you have no criticism of one of the largest corruption money laundering schemes we've seen in recent history. And one of the largest military-industrial complex money grabs we've ever seen. You have no criticism of that, but you're going to pretend you're the anti-corruption candidate? No. And this doesn't even apply just to Marianne Williamson. If you're not calling out the Ukraine proxy war, you are not an anti-corruption candidate. Period.
There's a clip we're gonna play later. It's also from Case Study QB, and in that clip, the guy says, "Oh, it's Morning Joe." Yes, got a Morning Joe clip for you. Morning Joe is talking about on there. He's like, yeah, he's like, the last time there was a primary of a sitting president, it was 19 so and so. And man, what did he say in there? I don't want to misquote him. Maybe I should wait for the clip. I don't want to misquote him because I don't know if it's Joe Scarborough that says that part or his Geff, and then there's as a counterpoint. I don't want to misquote him, but let me play this clip again and just let me know where you want to stop. There's parts I want to stop to make a point.
I'll check the audio, CJ.
1 second.
There you go.
Here, let me rewind it a little bit. Yeah.
I want to read for you something that you wrote for Foreign Policy just a year ago or so. And it was titled, "Why Progressives Should Help Defend Ukraine." You go on to say this. In the West's efforts to overcorrect for the United States.
Why should progressives help?
We stopped at the same time.
Yeah, we always do that. We always have the same. We always have the same trigger point. But let me rephrase that title of the headline. Why should progressives help defend the boosting of military-industrial complex profits? Why progressives should help defend the United States' endless pursuit of endless war with Russia? Like, you guys see when you state like that, how that makes no sense. Why progressives should help the Azov Battalion in their purge of ethnic Russians? This is what the headline's saying, really. Yeah. The help Ukraine thing is bullshit because we all know that's not what the United States' goal is. The goal is to boost the military-industrial complex and to advocate war with Russia, to have an endless, continuous engagement with Russia, to divide Europe and make them energy dependent on the United States and to cut their relationship off with Russia. Over the last 10 to 20 years, Germany and Russia has got increasingly close to each other. And many people in the United States, including Victoria Nuland, Mike Pompeo, they said one of the biggest dangers is the increasing relationship between Russia and Germany. That's the reason for this war. That's why Joe Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. He's a terrorist. So this headline should also read, why should progressives help economic terrorists like Joe Biden? Because that's what he did. So he committed environmental terrorism. There's going to be environmental damage in that area for a long time. Progressives, no criticism of that. Green New Deal Democrats, don't care about the environmental terrorism of Joe Biden. So there's so many layers about why this headline alone is ridiculous. But go ahead, CJ.
Absolutely. Well, now, let me just read the part of the article they have clipped out here. But in the West's efforts to overcorrect, this is what they're describing it as, man. With the West's efforts to overcorrect for United States past foreign policy failures, that's them saying, calling themselves imperialists. We cannot forget the plight of Ukrainians or buy into Russia's own imperialist myths. Go ahead.
Sorry, CJ, but there's so many layers.
Like layers on top of layers.
You putting it very lightly, quote unquote. Like this guy is presented as I'm a black progressive, right? You want to know how he described millions of dead Iraqis, sanctions that have starved millions globally, the destabilization of an entire region, foreign policy failures. Damn, you kind of understand it, aren't you? You mean the United States genocides, the Zionism that we're sponsoring Israel and Palestine, AFRICOM program that robbed the sovereignty of countless African nations. Often, many of those we bombed. The United States that armed terrorist groups in order to support our political agenda of destabilization in regions. But according to this guy, they were just foreign policy failures. Oh, just oopsies, miscalculated, made a wrong chess move. So once again, CJ, I know you got some. If you want, I know you got some things to add because I can. There's so many things in just this little subhead, paragraph, which is it's unbelievable. Go ahead, CJ.
No, I mean, I was just gonna piggyback off what you're saying, and that is that first part. And this is the lane that like David Sirota, the Robert Rech, I think that's his name, Robert Rech, even Marianne Williamson, they occupy this lane where they use the same language, or they want to use up until a certain point the same language. Like, yeah, we acknowledge something.
Yes.
but we're coming back. And that's sort of like, not sort of, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yes,
but in the West's efforts to overcorrect,
if they give a fuck
meaning
about that.
Like, have we overcorrected? Really? That's why I'm attacking the overcorrect. Because he's saying the critique is so harsh that we're overcorrecting. Is it overcorrecting? That's my question. But that's the description of it. For the United States past foreign policy failures. So he calls, like you said, you mentioned, millions of deaths caused by NATO and the United States, millions of bodies of dead indigenous and enslaved Africans. All of this are just policy failures because of all of these things, and then all of the recent history, like with Yemen and Somalia. Like recent and past history is also sort of the reason that you see African countries going with BRICS instead of going with the United States. It's just, and I'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can continue with the clip, and we have since we're on the topic, I got quite a few to share on Ukraine and propaganda. Cause I literally got 2 more MSNBC clips for you guys, and I got one. I'm going a little bit out of order, but I'm gonna play because I think it relates well to this clip in particular. But go ahead, CJ. Let's finish this out.
Yeah, and for our audience, we don't have really like segments today, so we're just kind of like just free flowing talking.
Yeah, this is why me and CJ work, because usually we have the same ideas, and then we're like, "Oh shit, this actually worked for a segment." We just plug each other's segments, we educate each other, and we have a good conversation. So I think that's what this stream is going to be. So let's continue, and I got quite a bit to share too.
Absolutely.
States' past foreign policy failures. We cannot forget the plight of Ukrainians or buy into Russia's own imperialist mess. As we look at the foreign aid Ukraine has gotten really over the last year from the West, have they followed your advice?
So it's curious to me that the comparison for her is, has the left followed your advice in comparison to the money we've given them? As if we're not listening.
Yes.
No, we haven't. Get them bitches double the money. You get what I'm saying? It's like and they have a black face. Supposedly progressive is the one who's to deliver that message. No, we have not. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can continue the video.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'm happy you asked that question. So there are a number of progressive groups that I'm working with directly, along with another colleague, who have very legitimate concerns about the overreach of American military involvement around the world. And so I think we have to be careful about lumping progressive.
So there's some people who got criticism of U.S. overreach. You mean 800 plus military bases? There's a little bit of overreach. You see how hey guys, it's not an accident. I'm making these points because I want you to know that he knows every word that he says is carefully picked out. And I'm telling you why they're picked out the way they are. Go ahead, CJ.
I wonder if he actually believes these things that he's saying about the progressives, or he knows that he's here to smear people. I said it
in my Matt Dust segment. Like when you listen to Matt Dust, and there are a lot of people that I saw in the chat that was roasting them for being low energy, very boring to listen to. Like when you listen to Matt Dust, and when I listen to this guy too specifically, you can tell this is a guy just clocking in. They're cashing a check. You guys see, like sometimes we can't help ourselves. We get extremely passionate. You see our friends of the show, all our friends of the show. You watch their program, they get passionate, right? You listen to Matt Dust, you listen to this guy, you can tell they're reading a script. It's like the same way a cashier is like talking to someone as they're checking them out. Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, you doing good today? Like it sounds good, but you know they're just going through the motions.
Yeah,
that's what they're
going
doing.
Through the motions.
That's my personal answer to your question. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Who have very legitimate concerns about military aid that's going to Ukraine versus those who are bad faith actors. And have people been listening? I would say generally, yes, those of good faith do understand that.
But what makes them bad faith? Because they're against it? Is that what's in? Like, I don't understand. How is the description bad faith even given in this debate? what does that mean? Like, what is it to be bad faith?
So,
that you want the
me,
war to end? You're bad faith because you want funding to stop? Like, what's bad faith about what? Go ahead, Nick.
No, you ask good rhetorical questions because always I can't help but respond to him, because what he means when you say bad faith are the people on the left who are not nice little CIA bots. I mean the people who actually debunks U.S. talking points, not the people who accept like people like Nina Turner will pretend to criticize Biden, but then she will accept the premise that Biden cares about Ukrainian people. You know what I mean? So then people like us, we say, no, Jim Crow Joe don't give a fuck about Ukrainians. We would debunk the NATO talking points. And now when you do it that much, you guys, they can't even rebuke our points. So they have to say we back faith. They have to say that because they have no way to counter it. Meanwhile, the people they consider good faith are people like Nina and Bernie because they're weak as fuck. Those are the chosen opposition. The youthful idiots for the establishment. The person that is designed to be weak so they can knock down easily, like the Mickey Cons on Fox News, right? That's their job, to be the weak left. That even when they criticize imperial actions, they do it in a weak way that the establishment can always maintain their point and easily swat aside, right?
Go down. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So let's finish out this clip so then I can pass it to you.
Ukraine is dealing with an imperial colonial power that's, as far as I'm concerned, is committing genocide. Those are very different from people who go on Twitter.
You see how, like, he's a progressive saying these things. It's, to me, that's what's jarring, is that it is such a shifting of narrative that now, Nick, the people who are protesting, we have right-wingers protesting left-wingers, Nick, over war. That's what we have. We have Libertarian Party, we have the LaRouches, if you want to call them right or left, whatever, protesting the left. That's what we have, and we have them going out wanting more war, and they're bringing these progressives on, and they have Matt Dust writing these articles. It's just a complete shift. And then they're calling us the ones teaming up with right wingers. Yeah, they want to team up with right wingers. Go ahead, Nick.
One of the best tactics that these people learn from the CIA and the establishment is to confuse. Call myself a progressive while being a 100% rat lib, like U.S. propaganda. Like, this is David Pacman. We just did a breakdown on him.
Yeah,
he considers himself a progressive. He considers himself a socialist. Meanwhile, repeat NATO talking points because their job is to muddy the waters of what it means to be a socialist, what it means to be a leftist. And then they deem anyone who actually read Marx, anyone who actually studied the ideology of the Black Panther Party, who was strictly anti-imperial, that was strictly against the police, strictly against our capitalist system, who advocated for a revolution outside the two-party duopoly. Those people are considered red-brown to these people. These people are considered the left that's actually on the right, even though they, like the TYT left, will apologize for they would support anti-homeless legislation. They will smear the homeless. They support giant police budgets, and they support giant military spending in Ukraine. But then they flip it on top of his head and say the people who are against the military-industrial complex, the people who are against the police state, are the right-wingers. We, the people who support Jim Crow Joe, we are the left. Their job is to be chaos agents. And my plea to you guys is, please stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt. They weaponize our good faith. And they say, oh my God, you guys accusing us of being an op. You're accusing us of being a Democratic shield. Yes, motherfucker, because you're acting like it. Show me your actions that you're a leftist. I'm done believing people, CJ. Yeah. There are a ton of people on Twitter like, I'm a communist, I'm a socialist, but they got Ukraine flag in their bio. There were a ton of people I remember in 2020. There were a ton of people I remember in 2020 that was calling themselves fucking communists, and they was voting for Joe Biden. You vote for Joe Biden as a communist, and they were gaslighting me. I'm like, this does not make sense, because I didn't vote for Joe Biden even before I was a communist. Before I was a communist, I voted for Joe Stein. So I'm like, you a communist and vote for Biden?
I didn't vote for Joe Biden,
and we should.
When I was a liberal.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say I was liberal, but I was definitely more of a sock dem. Like, I wasn't like well read in theory, but I was strictly anti-war. So even before I was a communist, I was like, yeah, I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. But you got people who claim they're communists, claim they're socialists, who vote for Joe Biden. Can we stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt? Can we stop listening to the bullshit labels that they apply to themselves? That's why we call these people out as agents of the Democratic Party, as CIA op divisive shills, because that's how they behave. and prove me wrong through your actions. Which they
through
do
your
not. Let's
actions.
do the video.
That's key. Through your actions. Welcome, new member. Red Wind, DSX. I think that's what that says. Thank you. Welcome aboard. And now I'll pass it to you. Oh, actually, 10 seconds.
Who propagate lies, who propagate mistruths because they're just engaged in rage tweeting.
Propagate lies, propagate mistruths.
And so I just want to distinguish those differences. But generally, most progressives who are of good faith are definitely supporting you.
So in order to say that progressives are supporting Ukraine, he have to have all these caveats. They have to be good faith, and that's the label they're given. It's kind of like the word terrorist. Those are bad faith. It's no explanation. They're just bad faith. They're just terrorists. It's not no explanation. They're just terrorists. They're just bad faith.
Do you think this is an example of them using a multi-coded language? Like they are talking to two different audiences here. So when they are presenting this information to boomers, they want you to know, hey, yo, be afraid of these people. These are the deplorables, right? And then when they talk to the establishment, the people who tune into a lot of these things, like the Morning Joe audience, they also say, hey, yo, there are progressives like Bernie. There are the NATO left, John Fetterman. These are the good guys, okay? You gotta understand, these are the good guys. Even though we gotta publicly pretend we hate them, these are the good guys. We gotta separate them from the RBN, from the Jimmy Dore, from the Grave Zones, from the Convocation. So it's almost like that's my take. I think it's like a multi-coded thing where they saying one thing to the audience, but they also letting the room class know, like, hey, yo, there are good progressives on your side here, but be warned of those fucking tankies. That's how I view it.
I think it's the same message. That's why, because I think it's the same message to those two different groups. But you're right. I didn't look at it that way at first, but that's I mean, because we have to look at it from the point of view, Nick, who is the media? They know they're owned by the ruling class. They know, to keep their job, they have to do a certain thing to stay in the corporate good graces. So that's why they craft the questions the way they do. That's why they bring on the guests they do, because they have a choice on sometimes in a lot of these segments who to bring on. But I'm saying specifically, and I can kind of, this is my last word on my video, and you can go to the stuff that you got. There's never, don't think that these networks just bring on anybody willy-nilly. The guests are specifically chosen to craft a specific message. And that's what this guy is. I'm black, I'm young, I'm progressive. He's 3 key words he's able to say. I'm all of these things, and I'm for the war, ruling class people, and I'm for the war. Boomers, don't worry. All these other young people that's acting crazy, they're crazy. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, it is a dual message. You get what I'm saying? But I just wonder if he's just a useful idiot, or
no, he getting paid, man. He's made. He's because we did segment on him before. I remember that guy. We did segment.
Oh, I don't remember. See, this
I think it was Q. We did segment with Q, and I remember Q roasted him. I saw a comment. I was like, yeah, I do remember that guy. Yeah, that's we did. Believe it or not, this is not our first segment on that guy. So trust me, he's getting paid. He's making good money to propagandize the public, and now you guys see why there's so many boomer liberals that are just fucking lost, son. They lost just because they watching this every day, watching this garbage. So I'm going a little bit out of order of my presentation, but I want to pull this up because I feel like this fit in the same segment. This is the propaganda report that we're doing, because you showed the Negro that came on to advocate for the NATO left and to tap dance for the establishment and let them know, hey man, there's some good progressive boys like me. I'm not gonna get ready to the military-industrial complex. And we mentioned, how they brought on the black person to do this. Now this segment here, I'll show you the screenshot. They have Joanne Reid, who is a textbook black shit lib, and she's the black woman voiced on MSNBC who pretends she's progressive, but couldn't be a bigger propagandist. But I never rank her as high as Morning Joe and as Tug Carlson in them, because the same issue as David Pacman, she's not that good at it. She's just not really good. So I'm putting a segment up, and you guys cannot believe. Don't look down. You guys cannot believe who they bring on for this segment. This is a propaganda all-star team they bring on for this segment. So let's play. I'll big screen so you guys can see. There's another spoiled on it. The conflict. Let me turn the audio up. Let's watch it because this segment is mind blowing for propaganda. Not too long.
Could well be heading for a stalemate, which no one wants. Ukraine says it wants all its land back, including Crimea, which was illegally annexed by Russia in 2014. Do they have the momentum to make that happen? Because if not, well, how else does this end? Joining me now from Kyiv is MSNBC chief correspondent Ali Veshi and Malcolm Nance, a former U.S.
Look at the all-star team they brought for this segment.
Oh my God! Not Malcolm Nance, not Ali Veshi.
So Ali Veshi, who's the guy who does the most Ukraine segments, or probably anyone in mainstream media. Maybe Tucker Carlson's up there, like debunking it, but Ali Veshi almost every day got a segment. And then some people they do one every once in a while, right? Like this is actually a rare moment. I see Joanne Reid talk about Ukraine. Like she's one of the people that mostly focus on cultural war issues. But Ali Veshi, the guy that they have for Ukraine, right? And Malcolm Nance, I explained this last year, made a brilliant career move. The most blatantly obvious, at least to everyone who's outside the DC bubble, like it's obviously what he's doing. He's not going to fight a war. He's about to make the career move. So he pretend, I'm following the Ukraine war and I'm going to write all these books and do a media tour. Fantastic career move. You're going to see how it works out in this segment. Anything you want to ask CJ before I move on? Because this segment is jam-packed full of bullshit because they brought the all-star team here for this one.
I was just about to say, I'm nervous just to see Malcolm Nance reappear from the last time I saw him. The only person they're missing is the woman that's in Kyiv, or I'm sorry, that's in Ukraine doing reporting. So supposedly that got interviewed with Andrew Yang. We did a segment on her. I think her name is Ashley, something like that. But they're just missing her. Just add her to this segment, and then it's a clown show. Go ahead.
Like they could one of these days they're gonna put a really good panel together. But this one was I saw this. I was like, damn. They brought Malcolm Nance and Ali Veshi. MSNBC has been ramping up significantly, man. I keep my eye on them doing the propaganda reports. But with the Ukraine thing, I think they saw that poll where support dropped like 1/3. Like it started out like 65%. Now it's 40% now American people support the Ukraine war. Now they're really laying it on right now. This is desperation time. So they brought the All-Stars out. Let's watch this video. This is horrible, but I want to show you guys how the liberals are being brainwashed.
U.S. Naval Intelligence Officer.
So remember the question, and this is the topic of discussion, CJ. How can this war end? So their answers can't be that bad, right?
Spent months fighting the Russians in Ukraine. And Ali, I do want to start with you, my friend. Let's talk about this because you had a chance actually to throw a question to Volodymyr Zelensky, to President Zelensky today.
And the way these people fangirl over Zelensky and Biden is so disgusting. And this is Ali Veshi's big moment. I'm going to show you his question. Horrible question. Not going to spoil it yet. Horrible question. And now this is his big moment. You got a chance to ask a question to our dear Zelensky. Oh my God! So tell us about it. So listen to this shit.
Talk about that and talk about this press conference that he did today.
Yeah, I did. It was a 2-hour-long press conference with international journalists here in Kyiv, and that question you just asked, we could be headed for a stalemate. Then what happens? Nobody wants that to happen. So there are two views on this. One is Russia gets booted out of Ukraine, leaves, and including leaving Crimea. That's going to be a heavy lift. The other is that Russia makes advances, and if a year from now we're still in this position where this war is still going on,
you don't know what they leave out. And they always do this. They're going to continue to leave this out in the segment. They're like, oh, what happens if this war go on? Oh, it's just only not a big deal. Oh, nothing. Only just Ukrainian people fucking dying. They don't care about that at all. Oh, Russia may advance. Russia may not advance. Who knows? No, Ukraine is going to die no matter what. They could not give a shit.
The president of Poland had said he worries that Russia will attack another state. So I put that question to President Zelensky. Listen to this conversation.
Look at this shit.
Last week, the president of Poland had said that if this war is still going on 1 year from today, there is a real danger that an empowered Russia will invade another state. Given how effectively you have held back a Russian advance with NATO's help here in Ukraine, is it even conceivable that Russia could invade another state, particularly a NATO state?
You pause it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, how about pause? You have one question to ask this motherfucker. And you asked him that, but go ahead, CJ. You asked him that.
What I was going to say is this to me proves that the media in the state is one and the same.
Absolutely.
You think he's not? I'm reporting. He is there to instigate. He is there to insert stories.
Yeah,
that is what he is there to insert things into the narrative. He is not reporting at all. So this to me proves Ali Velshi and all of these people. This is just a show for us. These people and all this is just a show. They're not really there reporting. Ali specifically, and you can hear it in the question that he's trying to insert right here. Yeah. Poland is saying that they could why are you inserting that? Why aren't you asking questions about peace? Why is it not these rambling questions about or these question one after another about how are we going to come to peace? What is the steps to get into peace? It's none of that. It's like, what weapons do you need? How many more fighter jets? Or what is this? When are you going to do this? It's never a road to peace.
Yeah, and listen, and the question is hilarious because you see how much he leaves and how much he gas Zelensky's up. He cannot wait to meet Zelensky ask this question so he be part of the good boy club. He I know you've done an amazing job repelling the invasion of Putin. You tell us more about how much of a great leader you are. That's essentially what he's saying in the beginning. But then he just said the question, and I want to play the question again so you guys hear it. You guys want to know what data he's using to back up the question why he's asking it? Nothing. Hey, do you want to respond to the rumor that Russia may invade another country? Based on what? Based on fucking what? So, according to the West, Russia is so weak, they can't defeat Ukraine. This is the narrative coming from the West. Russia has been exposed as weak, feeble, and ineffective. Their military. They're pushing that line while also telling people Russia is a threat to the world and may invade and take over Europe. How did these two narratives make sense together? How is Russia a threat to Europe and the rest of the world according to your narrative if they can't even beat Ukraine? If they're struggling so much in Ukraine, why would they launch a war somewhere else? Who do they look like? The United States? They will launch another war while they're losing one?
Same question in the comments. How is that going to happen if Russia's losing? How are you telling me the narrative that Russia's losing, but at the same time, they're about to take over Poland?
You guys see how it take only a few seconds of thinking? Connecting their narratives together. This shit makes no sense. So you got the NATO left, slack-jawed idiots, not even thinking about anything. Thinking too hard for me. Listen to TYT and see what they say about it. But anyway, let's continue. I'll play the question again so you guys can hear it again. But this is him in a ridiculous fashion posing a question to Zelensky. What will happen if Russia invaded another country? And then he has a horrible question, obviously. But obviously Zelensky doubles down with just as bad of an answer. It's a great dance they do.
Question to President Zelensky. Listen to this conversation.
Last week, the president of Poland had said that if this war is still going on 1 year from today, there is a real danger that an empowered Russia will invade another state. Given how effectively you have held back a Russian advance with NATO's help here.
Oh my God, Zelensky, you're so amazing. You have done such an amazing job. Why is that even part of your question? You bootlicking little punks.
In Ukraine. Is it
by the way, we haven't even got to Malcolm Nance yet. Wait till we get to him.
Oh, God.
Conceivable
Lord.
that Russia could invade another state, particularly a NATO state?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, I believe it's possible. And that might happen. Why?
Well, Zelensky's response to a dumbass question is a dumbass answer. So he's like, what's the chance of Russia launching an invasion? Remember, think of the question. He said if this war lasts until next year. So this war will be 2 years old at this point. And according to the West, Russia will be weakened 2 years in a war that you're apparently losing, right? But then this question also say Russia being emboldened. Why would it be emboldened if they're losing? So the emboldened Russia, even though they lost this year for the last war for the last 2 years, some reason they're going to launch an invasion. Zelensky, do you think that's true? Is Zelensky yeah, I think that's true. They are insulting your intelligence. And the NATO left don't even realize how much of a chump that they look like that they falling for this shit. Because I'm looking at the chat. Everyone in the chat sees through this, CJ. Our base-ass community. But the NATO left, them slack-jawed idiots think these people actually are fighting against Russia, against the imperial machine. But let's continue.
I can give you an explanation. President Putin needs to demonstrate successes and victories. So there is not going to be a success on the battlefield in Ukraine, and he will not succeed with the massive revenge.
I watched it the first time. I still don't know why they freeze framed this guy right here, because this guy represents all of us right now. He's like this fucking guy.
He will not succeed with the massive revenge in Ukraine. So he would need to demonstrate.
I'm sorry, that just confused me.
And that's the issue here. What's Vladimir Putin's off ramp here? What's his exit strategy? He hasn't displayed one. I will say this, Joy. Right now, it's 2 a.m. here. The anniversary of the first anniversary of this war is officially over. And the week that many Ukrainians expected of missile barrages and rocket attacks and a new Russian launch, a new Russian offensive, has not yet materialized. I'm touching a lot of wood around here because we don't want to talk about these things that happen.
But this is another example of the West putting arbitrary deadlines on Russia, and the West with no knowledge that Russia is planning this. And then when Russia does not do this, they're like, see, Russia didn't do that thing we said they're going to do. This is evidence that they're losing. They do this all the time, guys. The West themselves say Russia, they want to take over Kiev in 6 months. Meanwhile, Putin's like, what the fuck we say that? This 6 months later, they don't take Kiev. They're like, see, Russia failed to take Kiev like they wanted, guys. So it's evidence that they're losing.
They also set these and I think I said this with you in a stream already. They also make these ridiculous, unreachable goals so that they can prolong the war. And one of the newer ones, not new but semi-new, is retaking Crimea.
Yeah,
like that's never gonna happen. But you see, if you have that as a goal that is never attained, you see how you can just keep funding the war because you're still trying to take Crimea. 15 years in it, you're still trying to take Crimea. It's an unreachable goal, and that's what they do. And this is not the only one.
You guys realize Putin, and I'm undershooting it here. Putin has around a 70% approval rating. Among the people who do not approve of Putin are people who believe that Putin has been too soft on this conflict. The people that believe that Putin is dragging this out too long by not going all in, which is a legitimate criticism. Like, why are you dragging this war? Get this shit over with, right? Like, it's like the same criticism that people had in the West. Like, why are you dragging these wars out, right? So a lot of people said, Putin, just end this fucking shit, right? So the criticism is, Putin, why are you not going all in? Because the strategy, and Scott Ritter report on this, a lot of people who look into the Russian military strategy said they didn't have any plan of what the United States did, where they just steamrolled, killed a ton of civilians, killed the leader immediately. They had a slow rolling operation, which worked, where they liberated Donbass, got referendum passes, and now they are Russian territory. So they accomplished their operation. But the West says, with no evidence, that Putin want to take over Ukraine. Oh my God, Putin hasn't taken over Ukraine. Damn, Russia's losing. It's an unbelievable trick that they pull. But let's continue.
Happened, but for whatever reason, Vladimir Putin didn't do what the world expected him to do this week.
Malcolm, let me bring you in there because
now this part is when it gets funny because we all fucking know that Malcolm Nance did not go to Ukraine and did any fighting. That's obvious to literally everybody with common sense. But watch as they do this statement, and they're going to pretend that Malcolm Nance was there on the front line, CJ. Listen to this.
You were on the ground with Ukrainian forces. You've seen how they fight, how hard they're fighting for their country. What do you make of the fact that Putin did not launch the much expected offensive?
Oh, let me go back. Then the picture they keep showing.
What do you make of the fact that Putin?
And what really frustrates me is that this shit worked, guys. Like I told you guys when this happened, when Malcolm Nance, he did that thing like I'm making a great sacrifice. I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna go and fight in the Ukraine war. The second that happened, he was trending on Twitter. All the shit lives was loving him. And I said literally the next live, fantastic career move. Because we know his ass is not gonna be doing any fighting. He's gonna be nowhere near the front lines. He's gonna be doing nothing but taking selfies like this and doing a bunch of bullshit, and then he's gonna come back and they're gonna treat him like he's a hero, which exactly like I predicted. Here we go.
Oh my God. It's the same thing that's happening with that other girl that was interviewed with Andrew Yang that's supposedly fighting in the Ukraine war, but was a journalist. It's like, stop it. But it's so transparent.
Yeah.
Do you think Joyanne Reid really, like it when she's home by herself, you really think she thinks this dude is this? I don't believe these people can be intelligent and actually believe this. I'm not saying what she's saying in front of the camera. I can't buy that an intelligent person buys this shit. I can't buy it, man. I cannot.
This is the best analogy I have because my brothers are really into pro wrestling, right? Is that politics just pro wrestling, man? Like Triple H and The Rock are actually really good friends, but Triple H and The Rock are enemies on screen, and they treat each other on screen differently than they do in real life. That's how it is on here. So on TV, they're like, "Oh, Malcolm Nance, the war hero. Oh my God, I want to thank you for your service. You're so brave." But then behind the scenes, like, nigga, you see what they do? We got him. They really thought you did some fight in Ukraine, nigga. We got him. We get that back. That's why I think I don't really give these people no benefit of the doubt. I'm sorry. Let's continue because listen, it really get bad when he chimes in. As always, he's literally one of the most cringeworthy people. I honestly did not know who this guy was until like last year. Like obviously the name would pop up every once in a while, but when he did a Ukraine stunt, that's really when I started paying attention to see like who the fuck is this guy. Ever since then, seen nothing but cringe out this fucking dude. Anyway, let's listen to this.
Putin did not launch the much expected offensive on the anniversary of the invasion.
Well, I mean, he could have carried out a series of missile strikes on the cities as he's been doing almost every day for the last year. But in terms of an offensive, which is actually a ground combat term moving out there, the Russians just don't have the combat capacity to do it. I've spent the last,
Well, Russia don't have the combat capacity to launch an offensive, but they have the combat capacity to possibly invade another country.
Contradicting themselves.
You guys see how this makes no sense? I'll let it continue.
9 months in the Ukrainian army and the International Legion fighting the Russian. We knew that by September, when we carried out our counteroffensive in the area and then carried out another one in Kherson, that Russian combat power, really offensive power, is finished. I don't think Russia will ever be able to carry out anything of any significance over the next year. Doesn't matter.
They won't pull off anything of significance in Ukraine in the next year, but they may invade their country. Be afraid. I want them to realize
it's
you guys really said this in this segment. It wasn't like you did it last episode. I mean, literally this segment, you guys said it. They forgot what they said just 2-3 minutes ago. It's unbelievable. Let's continue. Let you want to chime in.
No, go ahead.
They bring up 500,000 mobilized men. All they are doing is just putting them into our sights. And that is why they are not carrying out a strike today. Putin is losing all of his capacity to use precision weapons. There was a rumor he was going to use his Air Force in a devil-may-care mass attack on Ukraine. The air defenses of Ukraine are so good right now that they're shooting down about 80 to 90% of the incoming, depending on the number of missiles that are coming in there. That's why we're not seeing anything today.
Well, Ali, in talking about the situation here, Russia has really only succeeded in one thing, completely isolating itself. I mean, there was a UN vote today to
This is so misleading. Can you stop it before they say it? This is so misleading what they're about to do right here. And it's a propaganda tool. It's similar to when they use as percentages. Like if they go, crime has gone up 40%, when it's really, when you translate it into raw numbers, it's three more additional. So that's a way, but play it and then I'll explain at the end. I don't want to foreshadow it yet.
Invasion and to call.
We don't have that much longer on this clip.
For them to withdraw. Yeah. The vote was 141-7. The only countries voting with Russia were Russia itself, Belarus, North Korea, Eritrea, Mali, Nicaragua, and Syria. We do a whole series of questions about that. 32 abstentions, including China. But on this question of stalemate, it's not as if Russia doesn't have an.
So what? If since she's not going in detail, you think what? all these countries versus the other ones. But if you add up the people, a number of people in the countries, it is way more. It's 80%. I think you always say 80% of the world population don't support this, and also they can't get around that.
It also was very sneaky because they said these are the countries that want Russia to pull out their troops. But there's also many countries like Lula in Brazil, the largest country in South America, China, many African countries, India that wants peace. That is not the United States position. So now that also coincides with that question because the people that want peace also want Russia to withdraw their troops. So you see how they bring up that question instead of rebuking the Biden administration that wants an endless war? It's a very sneaky way to present the question because everyone wants peace, but NATO and the West do not. Zelensky does not. Zelensky is shooting down and shooting the Chinese peace proposal that they're offering. Let's continue the segment, but it's very misleading so many different ways. Let's continue.
Historical memory they can draw on about what stalemates look like and how they can be endless. North Korea is a perfect example. That war started in 1950. Their own experience in Afghanistan, which they fought to a stalemate and got nothing from it but a humiliating withdrawal. Chechnya, again, this never-ending sort of stalemate, and the grinding war in Syria. They have, used their forces all over the region, all over the East, and they've not succeeded yet.
The biggest projection that we will ever hear today. So you guys know the United States have not won a war in decades and decades and decades. So when the last war the United States won? When was the last war the United States achieved their geopolitical objective? It has not happened. They launched a war on terrorism. Terrorism is higher than it's ever been. They actually funded and made terrorist cells stronger than they ever been. They went to Vietnam, got their ass kicked, lost the Korean War. That's why the DPRK exists, right? So what they say, Russia, oh my God, they keep losing these conflicts, right? That is literally what the United States does, but they just do nothing but cause massive casualties and destruction. What Russia has done, and there's a story that I'm gonna share here very soon, maybe sometime in this live stream, where it's like Russia's clout in the BRIC universe. A story pretty much talking about how Russia increased its geopolitical influence because many states want to grow in Russia. Many states want to continue doing business with Russia as they have a Western alternative. So this narrative that they just painted where Russia's isolated, Russia's losing, based on what? They liberated Donbass the way they wanted to. They got the referendums that they wanted. They rallied China and the rest of the anti-Western world against the U.S. establishment. They did exactly what they wanted. Exactly. And they wanted, in one of the pro-Putin elements and a lot of the hardliners in Russia, they wanted to have a big announcement of their divorce against the West and NATO because they were tired of Western aggression. They got exactly what they wanted. They got Africans that are now siding with them over the West. You got giant influential countries. You got AMLO in Mexico calling out the West and NATO. Exactly what Putin wanted. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend everything's been perfect for Putin. He had some embarrassments here and there, some battle loss here and there. Obviously, losing Russian soldiers and your people is never a good thing. I'm not trying to pretend everything is perfect. But the idea that he's losing is absurd. That's why I do. That's why I would.
But it's what they. And I turn the camera off. Wife is in the back. But it's what they have to do. This is another thing they have to do in order to prolong the war. Because could you imagine if you said we're losing and we're sending $100 billion over? They can't say that. So they have to say we're winning because nobody's going to say let's fund a. Now she's gone. Nobody's going to say let's fund a war that we're losing and we know we're losing because then the jig is up. The money laundering jig is up.
What's that? And I'm gonna get to my main story because we almost an hour in. I think it's a good transition because it's gonna be very interesting to watch the whole Ukraine narrative play out. And since we talk about Ukraine, because you have Donald Trump who called out NATO, called out the West and their complicity for the Ukraine proxy war, and now you have Trump that is running on a peace platform that made the Republican establishment respond with these primary challenges in order to have neocon candidates, right? So this is I'm gonna show you guys this first before I dive into the nonsense with the liberals because Trump pretty much said, hey, we need to sit down and we need to figure out a peace agreement. Essentially, the same thing that Lula did, but with typical Trump fashion. They took that and say, oh my God, look at Trump and his Ukraine plan. So the liberals are trying to knock Trump for advocating for peace. So this is what's going to happen here very soon. This is why I'm very interested in seeing, just as a foreign policy nerd, very interested in seeing how they're going to thread this needle where the majority of Republicans support the Ukraine war. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz are extremely loud. And this is why I cannot emphasize enough. They are a very small minority. There's another segment I'm going to show here very soon where there's this congressperson who's talking about how they wrote a letter to influence Joe Biden to send jets to Ukraine, because that's the pretend line to send now, CJ. The Biden administration is saying, oh, we're not going to send fire jets to Ukraine. We can't do that. That would be too escalatory with Russia. In response to that, you have Congress people that wrote a letter begging Joe Biden to send fire jets, and that was bipartisan. Ton of Republicans signed up on that as well. This guy on Morning Joe explains it like, yo, I know Martin Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz is loud, but guys, Mitch McConnell, the entire Republican establishment is all behind board on this. So Trump, seeing that, does something that he did in 2016 that he completely abandoned in 2020, made a good move, decided to run against the Ukraine war. Now, we can do nothing but speculate, and my speculation tells me, and I 100% admit, I don't have a lot of evidence. If Donald Trump won in 2020, I think he would win along with NATO. I think he would cave. Like that's my instincts. Like I will admit I have nothing to prove that. Like my instincts tell me that Trump would have caved on this shit. But since we don't have evidence of that, Trump can easily position himself as, hey, if I was in charge, none of this shit would be happening. And it's gonna work amazingly. That's my guess, right? So heading to 2024, Trump's game plan is to be the dove among the hawks.
Uh-oh.
So in 2024, it'll be the Trump versus the neocons, with two of his former top foreign policy aides potentially jumping into the race. Trump's team is making early moves to define the debate. So you have people like Mike Pompeo. This is why I don't believe Trump ever had attention to drain the swamp, because you have Mike Pompeo, Nikki Haley, and John Bolton. This is why I have a sneaky suspicion that Trump would have caved on this shit. But you know what I mean? Just use stuff like his hires. So they are running to Trump's right, calling him weak on Russia. That is the message that comes from Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo, and check this out. This is Mike Pence, because he's going to become very influential in the Republican primary because he's extremely anti-Trump now. Now, he calling out the Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, but most importantly, Donald Trump for being apologist for Putin in the GOP. So Matt Gaetz introduced a Ukraine fatigue funding bill because literally everyone's tired of this shit, right? Everyone's tired of this shit. So their response to him saying that we are tired of funding this never-ending war is calling Putin apologists. Their response to their bill that will literally just provide oversight to Ukraine funding is called Putin puppets. This will be Donald Trump's opposition in the Republican primary, guys. You guys see how ridiculous that is? But you guys want to know why they call Donald Trump a Putin puppet and what's the new thing that they are melting down on? Let me show you guys. This is the audio because Trump was on the podcast and he was talking about peace for Ukraine and very typical Trump shit, not very that elegant, right? But what he's saying is on point. Now I'll tell you why. Here it is. I had to find a link. So this I'm not gonna. I'll read this tweet later. But listen, it's very very reasonable here, right?
But the saddest part about the war is that this is a war that should have never happened.
Correct.
Okay, so now it happened. Now you have to get people in the room. You have to knock heads, and you have to get it done. And that would mean saying things to Putin and saying things to Zelensky that they're not going to want to hear, and getting them into a room and getting it done.
CJ, do you hear anything wrong with that?
I didn't hear anything wrong with that.
I'm legitimately asking. Chat, do you hear anything wrong with that? I'm asking because I only got one perspective, right? Because when I hear that, I hear nothing wrong. I hear obviously Trump mannerisms there. That's kind of funny, right? and it's kind of funny how simple he makes everything sound. But the idea of bringing Zelensky and putting together and telling them things they don't want to hear in order to get peace is an objectively good thing. You would think, right? You would think. Now look at this. This is, and you Google Trump and Ukraine right now, you'll find a ton of these stories. Trump mocked after revealing his plan to end the Ukraine war. Knock heads and get it done.
What?
He's mocked for that. Now, once again, I'm gonna show you guys a few other ones. Here's another one. This is from MSNBC. Trump has a get people in a room plan for the war in Ukraine. Donald Trump's plan for Ukraine involves getting people in a room and getting it done. The closer one looks, the dumber this superficial tact becomes. You know the superficial tact of advocating for peace?
You see how disingenuous our media is, Nick, where they know that he just said something in jest, meaning just like, just flip it, saying just somebody, it's a figure of speech. Get in the room and do this, right? They're taking that and running with and retelling the story to their readers, to their viewers, as if that's his actual plan. That is so disingenuous, but it's revealing in the sense that you have to go this low. That must mean something to do what Trump is saying. If you have to go this low,
exactly, CJ.
That means something he's saying must be accurate here.
That's such a good point, CJ, because you got a piece of shit Donald Trump that is extremely easy to take down. Extremely easy to take down. But you guys got to go in the gutter to attack him? Donald Trump, you can't attack him on merit. You can't find a way to attack Donald Trump on merit. What does that say about you? You got to do this honest tactic to attack him? Damn, your position must be horrible. Now, you got to see, I'm going to show you guys another story. This coordinated story. Look, another one. And I picked 3. Google this shit. You find this story been playing everywhere. This is why this brought my attention yesterday, CJ. Seeing it, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? There's another one from MSN. You want to know what they use as an example for Donald Trump being mocked? You got to see the headlines. Oh, here's the other one. Trump mocked for his hilarious plan to end Putin's war. So nuanced and savvy. You see, all the headlines saying he's been mocked, right? Now I'm going to show you guys an example of how liberal media manufacture consent and just plant stories. Trump mocked by who? That's why I asked you guys. Did that video sound ridiculous to you guys? Look at who they use to manufacture this story, because they know most people just read the headlines. I'm a nerd. I clicked this shit. What you say? Back what you say up, motherfucker. And look at this. Look at the story. They go on to say that President Donald Trump made a comment that drew massive flack from critics. What is the massive flack? And guys, I literally Googled this on Twitter to see the reaction. Didn't find a lot. Look at what they use. This is the only tweet that they have in this story. Comes from Ron fucking Fupuski or whatever his fucking name is. This guy. And everyone who's on Twitter know that this guy is the biggest fucking propagandist that there is on Ukraine. He's a psychopath. So they took his tweet where he's mocked Trump for advocating for peace because, like you say, he's a psychopath. And then they wrote 3 stories. And I'm not talking about like small Substack liberal outlets, right? This is on MSN. The other one on MSNBC. There's one on CNN of everyone talking about how Trump is mocked for his Ukraine peace call. What they literally they were literally pulling from NAFO. Because if you go to the story, their only sources of him being criticized for this is NAFO in the Ukraine box. Where he said, this is brilliant. Tweeted another user. Who the fuck is Ditto Man? Who the fuck is that?
But so, Nick, this is the reason why. This is the reason why they hate Trump. I'm talking about the ruling class hate Trump. This is why they don't want him to be the face, because there's 2 reasons. One, they don't want this ugly verbal face of their imperial. They need a happy, smile-go-lucky kind of face like an Obama that gives imperialism a happy-looking face. The other thing is Trump is not 100% on board with their militarism, and he'll just out loud say shit that he's not supposed to say. And that's another reason why they wanted him out of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, they really are quoting randoms from Twitter. Like if you go to this article, I think I'll still have it up. Share this tab instead. Here we go. You guys see when you look at the story, the first part of the article, and if you go to all of them, like this is one I pulled up. This is the other one. This is MSNBC. Same headline. This is Independent Co UK. Another one. Trump mocked.
Oh, we can see that whenever you're sharing something. I don't know.
Oh wait, I actually closed it, didn't I? I'm still getting used to the new control. I don't know why it's different for me, but I'm actually getting used to it now.
You probably got the beta version of the new stuff. We're gonna get it soon, probably.
Yeah. So you see, this is the Independent Co UK. You have one MSNBC, MSN. So how do you have multiple news outlet that wrote the story based on the same sources coming from NAFO Twitter? And they know most people just read the headline. You guys see how they manufacture and plant stories? They literally wrote, there are multiple news stories that literally dominated the headlines all day over what fucking Ron Flipkowski tweeted.
This tells you that the weapons manufacturer, they have the media. They say, hey, there's a presidential candidate that's trying to run and fuck up our pockets right here. Handle that shit. And that's what you see happening. But this is the thing. The people want peace. So this is what I said. If Trump is the only candidate running on peace, Trump will beat everybody in the primary, and Trump will beat anybody they put up as running for president on the Democrat. Anybody, if he's the only one running on peace. But him running on peace, Nick, has already affected the Republicans, because I played a video. I can't remember. It was like a collage of videos. And you can hear like Nikki Haley and not Mike Pence, but the other two people running. Yeah, we're not for a blank check. Now they're saying we're not for a blank check. They're all about, because they have to move left on war and not be so hawkish, because you got this other guy saying completely no, we need to completely go for peace.
It's gonna be very interesting to watch how they thread that needle in upcoming. And what I'm gonna watch is seeing how progressives respond to this thing. Do they just stay silent? Do they avoid talking about it like Marianne Williamson? Refuse to talk about it unless asked? They're gonna be doing everything they can. They're gonna be the giant geopolitical conflict that everyone in the world watching. They're gonna be doing their best to avoid it because they know it's gonna make them look bad. Now I don't know if you go ahead.
Let me add to this segment, your segment right here. I do have Marianne Williamson's segment with Nina Turner. So whenever you want to place that, I don't care. It can be next or after your next story.
I have one story after this, but go ahead.
Yeah, and then we can do that and then do the Nina Turner, Marianne. But this is Ron DeSantis speaking himself on the same topic, believe it or not.
I didn't watch this. I saw a headline on it though. So
yeah, I just saw it. I Googled or YouTube it when Twitter search when you started the segment. But let's listen. I can't believe they actually have him on camera saying stuff.
I think it's important to point out, I mean, the fear of kind of Russia going into NATO countries and all that and steamrolling, that has not even come close to happening. I think they've shown themselves to be a third-rate military power. I think they've suffered tremendous losses. I got to think that the people in Russia are probably disapproving of what's going on. I don't think they can speak up about it for obvious reasons. So I think Russia has been really, really wounded here. And I don't think that they are the same threat to our country, even though they're hostile. I don't think they're on the same level as a China.
He had to pivot to China. They're not just going to say stop this war. They're going to say stop this war and pivot to a different war. That's all they're going to do. But the segment's not over. Let's listen to what else.
Russian tanks are in Georgia. The Russian military has taken over Crimea. And now Russian aggression, 1 year in the making, has launched a war that has displaced millions and cost 300,000 lives, many more thousands wounded and injured. So the right approach to this moment in history with renewed Russian aggression in Eastern Europe is strength. American strength and calling on our allies to continue to meet their obligations for our common defense.
So would you say Ron DeSantis' characterization is wrong?
I would say anyone that thinks that Vladimir Putin will stop at Ukraine is wrong.
Oh, you guys see this stupid shit?
Okay, first your thoughts, Joe. Then we're going to bring out Vitaly.
I've got to say, and this is the
Sorry, it took me a while to click.
No, you good. You good. You keep playing. You keep playing.
mistake that Republicans are making. So many Republicans that want to run for president are making. They're playing small ball. Like Ron DeSantis is going for the most extreme small part of the Republican Party. Just call Vladimir Putin what he is. He's a war criminal.
Yeah.
He's a threat not only to Ukraine, he's a threat to all of Europe one way or
I can't believe, Nick, we're living through it and we're experiencing it. The Fox News is the saying less war, and then they pivot to MSNBC and they're saying this is why they're wrong. We need more of this. This is so, for a guy that used to watch this station, this is why this is jarring to me, because it's like, this is so not what this shit used to be years ago when I used to watch it. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and there's another segment I have planned. I'll make it for RBN Live, where More and Joe does the same thing, where he does the thing like, Putin's a war criminal. Like, when do you learn what a fucking war criminal is? You guys have done many segments praising John McCain, one of the biggest war criminals. Morning Joe goes on here every morning and performs the biggest Biden blowjob you ever see. He loves Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is a war criminal. But they according to the United States, only our enemies are war criminals. Putin his kill count, his crime against humanity pales in comparison to Joe Biden and Barack Obama and the war criminals in the Democratic and Republican Party that Joe Scarborough loves. But let's continue.
Yeah, let's let it finish out. Joe Scarborough is just funny to me. He's just funny to me.
Or the other. That's where most of the Republican Party is. That's where Republicans in the Senate are. That's where we just heard from Jason Crow, a Democrat, where most of the Republicans in the House are. He doesn't have to chase Donald Trump down every rabbit hole that leads him.
So Joe Scarborough right here is admitting to what we're saying here too. The point that I just made a second ago. Because of what Donald Trump's stance on Ukraine, it's affecting the other candidates.
Yeah.
And that's what he's saying here. He's saying you can't chase Donald Trump because Donald Trump has staked this stance as being anti-war or to come to peace immediately. You can't chase that. And that's why he's saying Ron DeSantis is all of a sudden being soft or softer on the Ukraine war, I guess, or Russia maybe.
To the land of stupid. All right. he doesn't have to do it. Well, he can stay away because Mike Pence's position, while it won't be popular with insurrectionists, weirdos, and freaks, extremists, it will be popular with mainstream Republicans.
Because they actually wanted to kill him. So I don't think they get along that well, the insurrectionists.
Man, they're just throwing all types of levels of stupidity propaganda in there. But yeah, that's the part I wanted to include with that segment there. You want to do your quick one, or you want me to do Marianne?
Yeah, that works well. This one quick. That's why I just want to interject this, and then we get to the next video. This is a funny segment because I want to show you guys the type of audience that the propaganda that we are showing you trying to cultivate. Let's show you the kind of audience that people like David Pacman are trying to cultivate. Who are the people who watch Morning Joe? Who are the people who are buying this? If you believe these are real people, I'm going to show you guys this massive rally. This rally of Ukraine flag, Nazi sympathizing liberals that was reported by Reuters. Look at this massive rally. Hundreds gathered. Hundreds. I mean, we only had like 2,000, 3,000 at the March rally against the War Machine rally, right? No coverage of that. But they got hundreds here that are sympathetic. And that's the funny thing. That's the most ironic thing about this. The most ironic thing about this is that they are making a comparison of Putin to Hitler as they're siding with Nazis. Isn't that great? Let's watch the video. Let's watch the video and listen to this cringe. Look at this shit-lived protest.
Oh, I saw that. I saw this.
Strengthening and everything possible to uphold the fundamental principle. 365 days of sorrow, losses, tragedies, and destruction. But we are not talking about that today. We are talking about 365 days of heroic, almost impossible fight. Ukrainians troops defending our homes, loved ones, our independence, our dignity, our sovereignty, freedom, and democracy.
Russia is a terrorist state.
Russia is a terrorist state. The United States just performed the biggest act of eco-terrorism we've seen in years, by the way, with the Nord Stream pipeline. Just one point there.
I think that people were desperate and shocked and baffled. And this year it's different. This year we have hope, and we are certain that Ukraine will win, because we can see that Ukraine is winning already with the use of all the support.
These people were nowhere to be found where the Azov Battalion and fascist Ukrainians was shelling the Donbass. 14,000 Ukrainians was killed. No marches, no call for peace. In fact, the only thing that's going to happen if the liberal fantasy that happens of Putin just pulling out of Ukraine is that you're going to have the Azov Battalion and fascist Ukraine retaliate against. Can you imagine what they're going to do, CJ? To the people in the Donbass after what they did? After the people, they already got caught torturing and killing people that they caught being Russian sympathizers when they retook Russian territory, right? So they're gonna, if Russia pulls out, the people in the Donbass are fucked, son. Luhansk is fucked. But they don't care. The NATO left don't care. These people don't care. That's why I find these people disgusting, because they do this pony show where they're like, we so moral, we care about Ukrainian people, except the victims of the fascist Azov Battalion that the BBC did a report on years ago, how there was a wave of political violence in Ukraine. So people who wanted to, who promoted peace, the people who voted for Zelensky, who wanted peace in Ukraine, that was his mandate. Those people was politically intimidated. There was people who were pro-Russian organizers who was attacked by these violent fascists. No conversations about that from these people. That is what really disgusting to me. It's a weaponization of empathy here. But we don't have to really continue because you gotta get the point. It's not even really required to watch the whole video. Because look at this, not a long story. Reuters, hundreds gathered in Washington, D.C. to protest against Russia's invasion of Ukraine and demand further aid from the U.S. So remember when Rachel Maddow did a segment, she was like, oh my God, look at this small, insignificant rally. The small, insignificant rally that had 2,000, 3,000 people. That's like the estimate right now. But meanwhile, Reuters, and I'm sure many others, this is the first one I saw and I grabbed for the story. They're writing a story about this protest. They got hundreds. And I'm saying maybe 200, 300 people there. That me being generous.
That's being generous. I was just about to say that. That's being generous there.
And my last point I want to make on this point here. There was people, as I explained earlier, who was attacking the Rage Against the Machine rally for being pro-war. Because they were like, you got pro-war speakers here. You guys are apologizing for the Russian invasion. The reason why I know those people are ops, because where are they on this? You got a pro-war rally here. This is literally a pro-war rally. Remember the people like, oh my God, I am against the Rage Against the Machine rally because Tulsi Gabbard is there, right? People, completely silent on this rally. So ask yourself why that is. Why the same people who made it their fucking career the last 2 weeks to criticize the Rage Against the War Machine rally had no criticism of a pro-Nazi, pro-war rally? What does that say, CJ? What does that say? So I'm gonna show you guys this, and this is last part of the story because the story not long, as I said. This is what not being shown. This is why I mocked the hundreds. Thousands of anti-war protesters are in the streets in Paris to protest armed deliveries to Ukraine. And Here it is. pour la paix en Ukraine. Sortons vite de l'OTAN.
Completely absent from corporate media. Completely absent from corporate media.
Hey, but CJ, hundreds was at DC to tell share the support for the Azov Battalion. That's what got Reuters support. Now here's another one, not just France. In Germany, 1,000 showed up to protest their support for NATO. Nowhere to be found in TYT. Nowhere to be found in progressive media. But they're going to cover this 100, they protest 100 people talking about NATO, right? There's Germany. A lot of people calling out the United States for their involvement in Nord Stream as well at these protests. No coverage. So once again, that's any last thoughts you have on that, CJ? I think that was funny. All the people that had criticism against the arrangements against the machine rally, I told you guys there was maybe like 5 to 10% of them that I think like, okay, that's a good point, and then they still advocate for the. They didn't tell people not to go to the rally. They didn't say not to engage with the rally. They had criticism. They move on. That's maybe 5%. The rest of it was people like Savvy told you guys she was getting DMs from people like, don't go to the rally, don't do this. All these people fear-mongering over that rally. Nothing to say over this.
I think it's a sign of desperation.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a sign of desperation. This is just another example of the ruling class being desperate because they can see that the public sentiment about this war is shifting. Because now it's hitting pockets. It's hitting. Winter is here. You got people in Europe. You're living through it, and you see why they're in the streets a lot. Why they're in the streets often. They're have a lot more people in the streets, and then you have the stories that you pointed out on Joyanne Reid's show with Malcolm Nance. This is all signs of desperation of funding for the war. They thought they were going to be doing the same thing. This is the same war thing about 2 or 3 years of milking this, but they can see that this is a shorter line of public acceptance of this that they have for this, and they're trying to drum it up, whether artificially or not. They don't care if it's artificial, just as long as they can drum it up. And I think that's what they're doing. That's my final word on that story. Did you see any super chats? I kind of looked through and I didn't see any, except for the ones that are already saved. So we'll do super chats, announcements, and then we'll get to the last story, the Marianne and Nina story.
I think this one. I think I saw this one come through. Thank you for the $5.99.
Yeah, this is the only one I saw. Yeah.
Can you get me on Jimmy Dore's show? I don't have that kind of pull. I don't have that kind of pull. I had something to say. PM me. That was for my playbook. Yeah, you probably should DM Jimmy and see how that goes. Like, I don't got it. We cool and all, but we don't want that kind of pull. Yeah, that'll get that. Hey. That's the kind of shit that'll get you cut off real quick. If I'm like, hey, yo, Jimmy, had this guy on your show, right?
He'd be like, who is that? I don't know.
That's the kind of thing you like, oh, I ain't I see, man. I don't think I got the kind of cop.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so quick announcements. Then we'll get to as it get closer to her announcing. It's more and more people are talking about Marianne Williamson, so we got to just quickly give an update on what's happening with her. But if you're here, we got 450 people watching. Let's get, here's our Substack. And if you're looking to get notifications when we go live or when we post clips, join our Substack and you'll get that notification directly to your email. The other thing is we had 287 likes. We got up to 450 people watching. Can we get another 125 people to hit that like button? That'll get us to about 415. So 415 is the target. 125 people hit that like button. 125 people hit that like button. The other thing is 31,425 is our subscriber count that I think I checked last night. 31,425. Thank you for everybody that recently joined. I think we probably gained 150 people over the last 3 days. So welcome all of our brand new members. One thing to note that's new, if you may not heard, we now have membership. So you may see a little join button next to the video or on our channel, because we now can offer membership. So if you're on YouTube a lot, you want to take advantage of our memberships. Our first level and the only one we launched until we decide on some other ones $3.99. Make sure you check that out. The other thing is our website, revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. Check us out. Our email, info@revblacknetwork.com. And we're liking our video, trying to get us to 415 likes. Let's see what some of you are saying before we get into this story. And I'll bring up the first video. There's 3 videos. There's a couple of short videos from case study, and then Kyle.
So this is
chimes
them talking about Marianne, right?
Yes.
So I'll say this real quick before I seen this. Already seen the media reaction and the liberal blue check reaction to Marianne Williamson running, and they are cooking her, son. They are already laughing her out of the room, guys. Like they consider her a joke. So as I said before, if Marianne Williamson and her supporters thought RBN was mean to her, if she could not handle me, a college dropout, and she thought I was being too rude, and she thought I was mansplaining her, she's going to be eating a lot. She's going to be eaten alive by these liberals. Already seen the venom. I seen them say shit. Well, I was like, damn. I was like, damn. I was usually my substantive is my criticism was substantive. Like I got criticism on strategy, policy. Nigga, they're attacking her personal life. Already seen it. Calling her.
It was a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'm starting to see a little bit of
it. They're playing way more dirty than we did because we attacked her on policy. They were going low already, and if she couldn't handle us, it's gonna go bad for her real quick. So that's my prefix to the story. I pass it to you, CJ.
And I think what you are alluding to is the video of Kyle Kulinski, because his video is titled "Media Already Smearing."
I ain't seen that.
Marianne Williamson, and so we'll cover that in just a second. But let's first watch it, because I was surprised they were talking about this on Morning Joe. So this conversation is on Morning Joe, and then I'll show you another one on CNN. But let's listen.
The last time a sitting Democratic president had a challenge was 1968, Lyndon Johnson. There was a pretty significant issue that his challenges raised. It was called the war in Vietnam. What issue would they raise?
And this is the point that I was trying to remember earlier, and I didn't know if Joe Scarborough had said it or this guy, and it was this guy. And I'm glad I didn't quote Joe Scarborough earlier. But this is the point I was going to bring up earlier about Marianne Williamson. And this is the point that you and you brought up also. If she was coming in challenging him on Ukraine, it would be like the challenge that this guy is talking about, this historical challenge that he's talking about in the past, the last time a sitting president. He was challenging him on Vietnam, the person who was challenging the sitting president. That's not what's happening in this case. And that's why I said, just imagine a person challenging whoever the president, Richard Nixon at the time, and challenging him, but you're challenging him and you're not against the Vietnam War. Like, what is the purpose of that? It wouldn't be any purpose unless that's the main focus. So now, fast forward to today, the main thing that's happening right now that's taking all of our money and attention is Ukraine. So how are you not coming in? And that is your challenge. That's the point of RBN, of Nick, and also that I concur with. It's such a flat-footed challenge if your challenge isn't to the war machine.
Against Joe Biden.
I think they would very diplomatically talk around the age issue. I think, look, there are two larger thematic things here that a Democrat could conceivably run on. One is freedom, and the other is choice. I mean, Democrats deserve a choice to have the freedom to vote for a president that most of them don't want to see running again. I mean, that is essentially what we're talking about here. We're not talking about someone who is out to destroy Joe Biden. We are looking for someone. I think a lot of Democrats are looking for someone to give an alternative, to actually make an argument.
You see, I don't know if you get the same feeling, but people talk in these terms of people deserve another option. But if you drill down to what they're talking about, they're not talking about a real option. Right. They're just talking about people can visually see, oh, there's another person right there that I'm not going to be voting for. You get what I'm saying? It's not like they want you to really have a choice. They just saying people need to be able to see multiple choices that you really can't choose. But that's the feeling I get when people say, even when I was watching the panel discussion on Vanguard, it's like, yeah, you know, people need to have a choice. But then at the end of the panel, they're like, yeah, nobody here believes that she's actually going to win. They actually acknowledge it. And it's like, well, I don't get it. But, you know, anyway, let's get back to the video.
Completely get why a primary challenge is to be resisted at all costs. If you work for Joe Biden, if you are Joe Biden, if you work in the White House, if you work at the DNC or whatever. However, I also think that sorry, got the earpiece problem here. I also think that this is a time for kind of fresh thinking, and again, the age issue makes for kind of an extenuating circumstance that the Democrats have been ignoring, have been talking quietly about, and probably should deal with at some point before it's too late.
And Jonathan Martin, talk about those concerns about Joe Biden regarding him surviving the term intact. You know, people saying not that it maybe, you know, he doesn't pass away, but maybe he spends his last year or two like Woodrow Wilson. We hear all the concerns. We hear the concerns about Kamala Harris not being a popular vice president.
Do you think, because to me, this is unusual that the media is talking out in the open about the president running or not running like this. But what's telling, or what's a slap in the face to Marianne Williamson, they're talking like this about Joe Biden, and they're also saying, but Marianne Williamson's not serious at all. It's almost like they want somebody else, or to try to force Joe Biden to say he's not running. What do you kind of grasp? Why would Joe Scarborough be platforming this talk about primary or a primary challenge to Joe Biden?
I think they really wanted to prop up Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris as the future. Now they're scrambling because Pete Buttigieg is in shambles. Kamala is historically unpopular. But I have something I'm going to interject at this story to show you guys. Like, they're going to completely erase Marianne Williamson from this conversation. And this is why we're trying to explain to these people that say, oh, it's a good idea to run within the Democratic Party as a messaging campaign. I said, no, you're wasting your time, because if you're going to run a campaign you don't think you're going to win, the messaging campaign should be that we should lead the Democratic Party. If that's not the messaging campaign, it's a waste of time. And now in polls, they're not even including her in the option of choices. And the number of people you see are Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris in these early polls. And then I saw one poll. I saw one poll that had Bernie at like 9%. Another one had AOC at 5%. So what we were telling the NATO left, the boutique left, that they hate to hear, what we were telling the Bernie industrial complex, what they hate to hear because they made their career off of this movement, is that the idea that we're going to run this super giant progressive campaign within the Democratic Party that made their careers, that's not going to happen again. 2016 and 2020, those was a Bernie Sanders iteration, and that's it. Especially after how Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the squad, they pulled the ladder up from themselves, so they made it even harder for progressives because they're not on board. Bernie not on board for Marianne yet.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a Biden bro. You had Pramila Jayapal and all the progressive caucus come out and said Biden is definitely the choice heading into the election after the State of the Union address. So I'm not quite sure why Joe Scarborough have done this. I just think this is something they always plan on doing as a way to put another candidate there, just in case Joe Biden does not want to run. Because there was a story that said that Biden has not technically decided, but I always take those with a grain of salt because those stories are planted. So, but
that is true. Yeah. Now, here to your point, how they're not even acknowledging Marianne Williamson, they do talk about her right here. So let's listen.
You argue this in your new piece, quote, there has to be one good challenger, X, out there from the party's supposed deep bench, right? Someone who's compelling, formidable, and younger than, say, 65, someone who is not Marianne Williamson, someone who would be unfailingly gracious to Biden and
like, that wasn't the point of the story. It wasn't a period after Marianne Williamson. Yeah, someone not Marianne Williamson. They just kept going. That tells you how insignificant they think of her. So let me
if they thought, if the Marianne Williamson progressives thought RBN, if they thought we was mean to her, they have another thing coming. They haven't seen anything yet because we have policy and strategic disagreements. They're going to go after and attack her in some of the most malicious ways, which they are already doing. They're going to do a lot of these underhanded tactics. Her primary will be a joke before it started because of the way they're manufacturing the consent. And then after South Carolina, after that mouth whopping, they're going to make fun of her even more. So this is the movement that the boutique left want us to put our resources in. This is what the movement, the boutique left, the Vanguard people, the Crystal and Ball people, the Crystal Ball and Kulinski people. They want this to be the face of the movement, so the workers can suffer another embarrassing defeat. They're setting workers up for an embarrassing, emasculating defeat, like the professional managerial class always does. Go ahead, CJ.
65, someone who is not Marianne Williamson, someone who would be unfailingly gracious to Biden and reverential of his career, even while trying to end it. Challenger X could earn goodwill by campaigning with class and expressing unrelenting gratitude to Biden. She could simply nod and shrug in response to the various admonitions.
Let me just read this, Nick. And someone who would be unflailingly gracious to Biden, a Challenger X could earn goodwill by campaigning with class and expressing unrelenting gratitude to Biden. Like, so goes to the point I was saying, like, it's like a choice that's not a choice. That's why they're saying you shouldn't be really like riling, getting Joe Biden dirty, because we all know this is the guy. You're just here so the people think they really have a choice. You can hear them talking in that way outside of them saying, no, we should have a choice. No, they don't really want us to have a choice. And you can hear it in this way that they're talking now.
Emphasize her own credentials and the grave threat posed by Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, or any other Republican, say repeatedly that she would do whatever was necessary to help and support the president if primary voters nominated him again.
I mean, they could do all of that. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, he or she could do that. But Mark, the argument that I usually hear from Democrats are, he beat Trump. If any of those other people had run against Trump, Trump would have beat him in Wisconsin.
So those are two parts I wanted to show you there before I get to the main video. Did you say you wanted to insert a video here, or after all of this you wanted to insert a video?
I'll wait till you're done.
Okay. All right. So then let me get to now. Believe it or not, Nina Turner. So this is the Nina Turner part that I want to chime in. Nina Turner actually chimes in. So I don't know if this is signaling that Nina Turner would support Marianne Williamson. Maybe it is signaling that. So, but she go ahead and talks about it, right? And she posted it. Let me put it up here. Oh, right here. So here's a tweet. Yeah, here's a tweet right here. Democrats cannot claim to be the party of democracy and also hold beliefs like this.
Now, this is also what I was saying. When this is just one of many, you got to see this is a blue check liberal account who are posting all this nasty stuff about Marianne Williamson. Once again, the Marianne Williamson supporters who thought we was the mean ones, and they're going to run to the warming, loving care of the Democratic Party, they were deeply mistaken. RBN was just a start. Like, if you can pass that test, you're going to stand no chance against these parasites like Claude Taylor. I'll read it if you don't mind. Look at this. I saw this earlier. I actually had this. I was about to share this, so this is perfect. I hope the Democrats will keep her off as many ballots as possible and allow her entry to 0 debates. This is not a serious candidate. 2,000. I'm sorry. That's Nina's. But that tweet had a lot of likes on it too. So there are a lot of liberals saying the same thing. Like, yeah, the Democrats should not take her seriously. Shouldn't be on the debate stage. They will not give you guys a hearing. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, let me show. And I mean, you can still talk. I'm just going to show you. Crystal Ball also chimed in right here on the same thing, and then I can actually go and show you the amount, because this is the actual tweet, and I can show you the amount of likes. But she said, "Behold the liberal commentariat commitment to democracy." So that's what they're labeling. Of course,
yeah, that Crystal Ball, like that was Crystal. So she's upset that liberals are attacking the legitimacy of Marianne, and it just getting started. Like Crystal going to be doing this a lot coming up here in the next few weeks. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know who Claude is. I didn't know who he was before this, but he's obviously a shit lib. And
it's the New York Times. Go to his description. What it say?
Go to her.
What did his description say? Go Claude. Go click his profile.
Oh, sorry about that.
I thought I saw something.
I think he did. I think it does say he's a reporter. Wait.
Oh yeah, 215,000 followers. Do you guys think that's real? Come on, that guy. When I saw that, I was like, click his profile. I saw that, like, no fucking way, bro. That guy. That 215.
Yeah.
You gotta believe that. There's no way that's fucking real. But go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
That's the guy. So news has come out, and these are a couple of other things of just people just tweeting out about her. And maybe I'm spoiling your thing, because this is, I was gonna go over.
No, you good.
Maybe these are the same tweets that you were gonna cover. So
you good.
Just wanted to show how some people were responding to her. Grifter Nina Turner gave Grifter Marianne Williamson a plug on CNN this morning. I'm going to show you that video. Of course, a clutch of these fake aggressive podcasters and booksellers retweet and promote each other. Their only motive is enriching themselves. That was a devastating tweet. That's a devastating tweet.
I told you guys, it's obvious to literally everyone who's not the friend of Marianne Williamson and her clique, right? So I've seen liberal journalists and headlines make fun of the fact that they're like, and you guys saw Warren Joe hint at it at the beginning. They're like, when the last time you actually seen the Senate president actually lose a primary challenge? So it's like they're mocking her chance of not winning. Meanwhile, people like Crystal Ball, they are trying to present in Vanguard, they're trying to present the fact that she has a chance. But that idea is being mocked relentlessly. Like, the idea you're going to run, you're going to defeat the president, and now they calling her a grifter. Look at what the tweet said. The tweet said essentially what we said, because it was obvious to literally everybody. The only motive is enriching themselves. The motive for Crystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski and the Vanguard for pushing them is so they can benefit from the Marianne Williamson industrial complex, right? The same way Marianne Williamson is running, not because she want to wage a proletariat revolution against the Democratic Party. She want to write a fucking book, guys. That's obvious to anybody except the people who Marianne Williamson gave access to. And now these people got to pretend that she's running for any other reason other than fucking PR and to sheep her people to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and then I got
what Glenn say?
Oh, this is about the Berlin rally. This is not about Nina Turner, though. Yeah, this is not being. Yeah. If he chimed in on Nina, let me go back to Nina Turner's page here. Because so you see what she says here. She also went on CNN and chimed in on this also. And here it goes right here. Here we go. 1 second.
Is that Biden is not without risk. He would be the oldest man elected president. There are moments when he seems feisty and ready to fight Republicans. And there are moments that do leave doubts in the minds of voters who are watching. Whenever you ask voters how they would feel about, say, a Donald Trump versus Joe Biden rematch, there's a very negative reaction to that prospect that we could be going through that again in 2024. But the problem Democrats have is, if not Biden, who? That's a huge question mark. The sitting vice president in polls that my firm and others conduct doesn't tend to do very well against potential Republican contenders. There are others on the list. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, California Governor Gavin Newsom, they've all got issues. And so right now, in some ways, I think Republicans would love to run against Biden. On the other hand, I think Democrats have to be a little nervous that if it's not Biden, then who would it be? Do you think
There's no need to be nervous. I mean, we got to feel people should just jump in. Let's jump in. Let people jump in. You got Marianne Williamson out there saying she may run.
So he should be challenged, President Biden.
Absolutely. He should be challenged. Voters deserve.
Reid and I agreed on everything.
This is one where I don't that's agree. Okay. Voters deserve, right? This is democracy. This is not a dictatorship. Voters deserve to have choice, period. And, you know, I rock on the freedom fighting side of the ledger. I want to see a robust debate. One of the things that our campaign did in 2016 and also in 2020, I'm talking about Senator Bernard Sanders, is we lifted
hundreds of millions of dollars of working workers' resources. I just got to remind you guys, where did that money go? $100 million every year. So that's $200 million. And I'm literally I'm rounding down. It's like $250 million that we spent over the last two elections. What did the working class get for that money? That's my question. Let's continue.
Absolutely.
The Bernie campaign should be something that you guys talk about with shame. You guys should be embarrassed that you guys took that revolutionary moment and shepherded it to the Democratic Party. They talk about it like it's the good old days. Man, the good old days back when we had everyone fooled.
Debate in terms of what people really need and deserve in this country. And the only way to get that kind of robust debate is to have people on that stage. So on the Republican side, the more the merrier, and on the Democratic side, the more the merrier.
So what I was going to say is when you look at Nikki Haley's announcement video, when you listen to
what debate would there be on foreign policy? You know how they have a foreign policy dedicated debate? What debate would there be on foreign policy, Marianne Williamson, when it comes to foreign policy and you and Joe Biden? What would they debate on, Nick?
CJ, remember, the debate that will come from Marianne Williamson and Nina Turner is, hey, Joe Biden, that money you send to Nazis, you should be spending on me too. I want the Nazi money. I'm a social democrat. I want to benefit from imperialism. If I was president, I wouldn't only send money to Nazis. I'll make sure you guys get the blood money too. That's the message. We are okay with military-industrial complex profit as long as we benefit from it. Let's continue.
Yeah. All right. So I'm cutting some of these videos short just so I can cut the segment shorter because this is the main video I wanted to get to. So this is the final video that we're gonna watch in this segment, and then I'll pass it to you, Nick, if you had anything else.
I have one more.
Let me know. Yeah, that's completely fine. Here we go.
State party that could.
Let me rewind.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I got an awesome one for you today. So we're going to be talking about Marianne Williamson. It is all but official that she will be challenging President Biden in the upcoming Democratic primary. There's a lot to say about it. We got the reaction. We got some surprising twists in the story that actually, believe it or not, cut in the direction of Marianne Williamson. Biden has basically picked a fight with a state party that could come back to bite him in the butt.
Look at him selling hope.
I also have
Hopium.
Vivek.
So think about what the premise he's giving here. So I'm not going to be long on this point, but why would you leave it that? The premise that he's trying to sell is that, guys, maybe there's a chance. What's the point of interjecting that? Oh my God, Biden may have pissed off some party over here. Maybe there's a chance. No, Kyle, there's no fucking chance. Grow up.
It sound like we're gonna sound like South Park all this segment, okay? No, Kyle. Kyle, we gotta sound.
Yeah, you go back like 10 seconds. That's why he interject that point. It's hopium to groom his audience to believing that there's a chance. Guys, don't waste your resources on this bullshit. Go ahead, CJ.
No, it absolutely is hopium because even on what he's trying to sell you on, that it's New Hampshire. New Hampshire's mad, so now he's really in trouble because New Hampshire. It's the overblown. Yeah, it's the overblowing of New Hampshire, and I'm not saying New Hampshire's not important. I'm just saying it's overblowing New Hampshire as some sort of
they're gonna run to
indicator. Yeah, let's listen though.
Has basically picked a fight with a state party that could come back to bite him in the butt. So we'll talk about that. I also have Vivek Ramaswamy is a new declared presidential candidate. They call him the CEO of Anti-Woke Incorporated. This guy's endless entertainment. I got a bunch of videos for you. We'll dive into his record. We'll talk about all that stuff. And then later on in the show, we have the right-wing civil war continues. Laura Ingraham and Steve Bannon go to war with...
Now, I'm going to skip past this, but just to point out, since he's saying this, you see what they're talking about?
You
see
no
the stuff they're giving their audience?
No stories exposing NATO. No stories exposing the pre-industrial complex. It's just nothing but jokey bullshit in order to make Democrats look better than Republicans. That's all it is.
Yeah.
As time goes by, we know that the Democratic establishment and their media goons like to play dirty, but this is very, very early in the process for the smears to start. So here's MSNBC. They're going to talk about how it is now all but official that Marianne Williamson will run against Joe Biden, and we'll dissect this. Here we go.
Now, this is a video you may have seen here. I don't know if I covered it with you, but I played it before, so we've seen it, but let's listen again.
Before President Biden has drawn his first Democratic challenger. Best-selling self-help author Marianne Williamson has announced her plans to run for president. Williamson, a progressive Democrat, ran for the White House in 2020, but she dropped out of the race just before the primaries and caucuses got underway. Joining us now to discuss this, White House reporter for Bloomberg, Akela Gardner. All right, Akela.
So he calls this a smear. Just understand, this is a smear to
It's
Kyle.
still wild to watch these people go to bat for Marianne like this, man. Like, he had the video ready. He was about to go after all the critics. It's so wild that they chose her, man. I'm still hard to get over, but let's continue.
You have to defend her. Yeah, it's pretty underwhelming.
Marianne Williamson aside, does the White House anticipate other candidates jumping into the Democratic primary the longer that Joe Biden does not say he's running?
Now, let me interject here to say there's literally no way anybody who has a connection to the Democratic Party will run other than Marianne Williamson. Why? Because they're all good little boys and girls who wait their turn and stay in line and play patty cakes with the establishment.
You see how he's trying to prop her up as she's a rogue person.
Yeah.
You see, that's why we need her, because she's not afraid to go. Really, that's what we're doing.
What a sell. What a sell.
So it's Marianne Williamson, and that's it. It's one-on-one, which, again, is the best case scenario for Marianne Williamson, even though, of course, it's a massive match.
It is the best case. Because if Joe Biden doesn't run, Bernie Sanders is going to run, and that's even worse for Marianne Williamson.
I was laughing because we are literally only a few minutes in. There have been so much hopium. You guys see the New Hampshire thing, like best case. It's like there's so much appeal to emotion in this video. It's all about getting people hyped up for Marianne Williamson. Like, this might as well be a campaign ad. Might as well be a campaign ad for Marianne Williamson. Which we know the Vanguard, Kyle Kulinski, Crystal Ball, and these people, they're more than happy to fill that role, be part of that industrial complex. But let's continue.
Massive uphill climb either way.
I don't think the White House ever expected to get a serious challenger. And I wonder if they would even consider Marianne Williamson a serious challenger at that.
Literally no. Hey, Kyle about to be mad. Kyle's about to get mad. But Kyle, I'm here to tell you, bro. Literally no one except you and your friends are taking this seriously. So I want to hear what you have to say. But I feel like you're about to get sassy. You should. What she said is objectively true. But go ahead.
Didn't even get her name right. Marianne Williamson is what she just said.
Oh, he's mad.
Oh, he's offended.
Oh, he's mad. He got her name
Let me
wrong.
go back because I didn't notice that.
No.
Let me hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it again. But Kyle, dude, she's right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let's watch the video though.
Oh.
Didn't even get her name right.
Oh, sorry. I guess I didn't go back far enough. Let's go back here.
A serious challenger. And I wonder if they would even consider Marianne Williamson a serious challenger at that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, too. I didn't even notice that.
Didn't even get her name right. Marianne Williamson is what she just said. I don't know if the White House will take her seriously. Yes. Remember all the talk from the Democrats about how democracy is so important. We're saving the country from Donald Trump. He's doing an assault on democracy. We believe in democracy. Yes. Then all of a sudden, we try to exercise democracy, and they're like, democracy. You want to challenge the guy? Bro, he's an ironclad candidate. You can't beat him.
Dude, what they are saying...
85 years old and can't complete a single sentence anyway.
What they are saying, based on that panel, like we saw the tweet with a guy that said that she shouldn't be allowed to run. I do not see the criticism from liberals that Kyle is describing. Kyle is trying to describe that she can't run. That is not what they're saying. They're saying that she can run, that she don't have no goddamn chance, though. So you see how Kyle conflating those two things? No one on that panel that reacted said that she couldn't run. They're saying what literally everyone knows is true. Everyone except you and your clique knows that Marianne Williamson stands no chance. That is their point, Kyle. What is confusing about that? Let's continue.
And I think they really risk here giving her too much attention. But it is going to be somewhat of an annoyance to have her out there openly criticizing Joe Biden. She's
risk giving her too much attention, and she's an annoyance. Hold on now, wait a second.
You see, I knew when I first heard this video, I'm like, them motherfuckers gonna zero in on that point right there on this video. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's gonna be an annoyance. Now, he wants you to believe an annoyance like a upcoming rent payment. You get what I'm saying? Not an annoyance like a spider in the corner of a ceiling. You get what I'm saying? He's trying to paint the other annoyance when it's really just a spider off in the corner of the ceiling that you may or may not even come in contact with for several months. That's what he's trying to paint her as an annoyance from that line, from that single line from the reporter.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, guys, the second Marianne Williamson started to criticize Biden, the only thing that Biden and his allies got to say is, oh my God, look at this person who's being divisive, who is about to help Trump win. She's about to weaken the president, and she's going to be the reason why Donald Trump is going to win. That's all it's going to take, guys. The second that Pramila Jayapal, you know it's coming. Oh boy, you know it's coming. Pramila Jayapal is going to be like, come on, guys, we can't weaken our president. Then she's going to be silenced by that. And if she gets any criticism out, it's going to be ignored. They already not showing her on polls. They're erasing her candidacy. And the point that the person that Kyle responded to is making is that the best strategy for Biden, which I think he would do, I think any person would do the same, is if Marianne Williamson run against you, don't acknowledge her. Like, treat her as the French candidate she is, and then the media will follow suit. That's what the person is saying. And then Kyle gets triggered by her saying, well, it will be an objectively good strategy by Biden. Don't address the fact that you got a challenger. Why would you do that? You got to know Donald Trump had multiple primary challengers last race. You know what he did? Didn't address them. That's what happened. So how is Marianne Williamson going to be different than the many of the Trump primary challengers that MSNBC and the liberal media gave a ton of airtime to? There's no difference here. But let's continue.
Second, you guys are the media. Aren't you supposed to call balls and strikes?
No.
Instead, it's almost like they're giving advice to the White House. They risk giving her too much attention. And she's quite, risk giving her, she's a challenger to Biden. By definition, they should have to give her attention if they believe in democracy. She's going to be an annoyance. She's an annoyance.
So we're hearing it a lot. We heard it with the other K, Crystal. They're going to start using a line, if you want democracy, that's the line they're going to be using. Because that's what Democrats are using to sell January 6th. So they're going to be, oh, Marianne Williamson, if you want democracy, you'll be fine with her. That's going to be their response to, oh, you're trying to get Trump elected. That's what they're going to do. Go ahead, Nick.
So I know the point that Kyle's making here. He knows the media is not pro-democracy. So he's using this situation to make a point that Democrats are not actually pro-democracy. They just pretend they are. Now, this is the question that RBN have. If you know this to be a fact, as you are explaining through sarcasm, that the media actually don't care about this stuff, why would your strategy be to use that infrastructure then? So you know, based on your analysis, that they won't treat Marianne Williamson fair. So we know that too. I will agree with you that they will not give Marianne Williamson a fair shot. This is one of the reasons why we come to the conclusion that this is a waste of time. If we were going to run a race where we know we were going to lose, unless we get massive amount of working class donations and funds, that's going to be wasted on the effort to drive people to the Democratic Party. So since you know the media is going to treat it wrong, since you know the Democrats are going to be anti-democracy and not allow on the debate stage, why not run a messaging campaign that actually has an end goal? And the reason I say that is because when the rumor about Marianne Williamson first started, what was the first question I asked, CJ? What is the end goal to this? That's what I care about. And we all know, and in this segment showing that Kyle knows this too, that Marianne Williamson doesn't stand a chance. So my question is, what is the end goal here? Are you running just to lose later and then sheep her people to the Democratic Party, which we all know is the case, despite the lies that come from the Vanguard, Crystal and others? We all know that's the end goal here. So if that's the end goal, why should we waste his time on an effort that you explaining in your own segment is literally rigged against her? You gotta see, there's like, he will do these analysis, but you don't apply this analysis to your strategy because your analysis is explaining how this thing is rigged. So if you know this is rigged, why is your strategy not adjusting to that fact? So me and CJ in my family at RBN, we know the game is rigged. That's why we advocate for mutual aid, using third parties as an avenue for direct action and mutual aid. We do that because we know the system is rigged. Cal knows the system is rigged, but he still tells you participates in it.
Yeah.
What's that about? But I'm long-winded, so let's continue.
No, that's great points. Let's listen.
Look at how smug they are. Look at how condescending they are. This is how they manufacture consent, right? This is what they do.
God.
Said the person trying to manufacture
consent.
Step outside of the bounds of.
Says the person who's trying to literally manufacture consent with his fiance or whoever. They're literally drumming up this candidacy and giving it the airtime that it would ever get. Because Nick, think about it. If they weren't pushing it,
it wouldn't be
like we would just be. It wouldn't even be a thing on the. It would be like, oh, she's running. Oh, that girl's running again. Okay, cool. That's it. But it's only a thing because you're trying to manufacture that, and you're trying. It's so unreal that the person who's trying to manufacture consent is saying somebody's manufacturing consent against her. But this is their thing. They're going to use this language throughout, I believe, her candidacy.
Of the Overton window. If you do, you're going to get viciously mocked and derided.
Okay, I want you to hear this point about the Overton window. So let me rewind it because she's supposedly a person that's going to be moving the Overton window to the left. I don't know how, but she is that person.
It's you better not step outside of the bounds of the Overton window. If you do, you're going to get viciously mocked and derided.
And then she's not.
And treated like a.
She's not stepping outside the bounds. Where's criticism over Ukraine? She's well within those bounds, Kyle. Go ahead, though.
Fool. They're insulting everybody's intelligence. By the way, a poll just came out the other day. Only 25% of Americans want Joe Biden to run again. 25%.
They also came out with a poll where Marianne Williamson was nowhere to be found. Look, stop cherry picking info, Kyle. Yes, a lot of Democrat voters don't like Joe Biden, but those polls come out every election. That's what they don't tell you about. But partisans will vote for whoever the party put in front of them. So they will say, I don't want Joe to run. But if Joe Biden nominee, that doesn't mean they're not going to vote for him. You know what I mean? If there's
how is this any different?
Yeah.
How is this any different than the last election? Wasn't he polling less? This is not any different. Didn't they say vote for him regardless if you like him? Remember, his enthusiasm was low. Like they're acting like this guy didn't have this same situation where people were kind of like with him, and that's how they are now. But this goes to the manufacturing of consent that you're doing, Kyle. You're trying to rewrite history as if this hasn't been Joe Biden previously.
Yeah.
You're trying to rewrite history about New Hampshire in order to sell your candidate, Kyle. And let's continue.
So based on that poll, shouldn't you be out here saying, hey, great, Biden as a challenger? This is, the majority of Americans want to replace him. Well, here we go. Now here's another option. Nope. They're playing defense for the Democratic establishment and the status quo.
Already
what's
said
the strategy to
she's
overcome
disagreed.
it? You guys know they will talk about it, but what's your strategy to overcome it for the people who advocate for the strategy? Because they've been doing this every year. This is not new. They're gonna do the same thing again, CJ, and then they're gonna lose this election because of dark money. They're like, oh my God, if it wasn't for dark money, we would have won. Let's try again next year. These people are designed not to learn their goddamn lessons. Like, this is a very basic analysis, which is true. Like, he's telling the truth about the media, but this analysis we already know about. So why are we going through the same strategy knowing they're going to do this? But go ahead, CJ. I know you want to chime in. Go ahead.
No, this points out to the failed strategy, to your point. Like, just think about this. The only political group that's in this predicament that Kyle and progressives find themselves in are progressive Democrats. In the sense that it's the only group that's in a party that doesn't fucking want them or their policies whatsoever, and you're steady fighting to just get elected, and then there's a second fight that you got to fight for policy. So there's two fronts that you don't fight. You know how they say it's an easier path through the Democratic Party? No, it's not. You're fighting two fights in the Democratic Party, where if you went third party, you're not fighting two fights. You're fighting against people who don't even fucking want you. That's why they're keeping dark money in their primaries. This is such a failed strategy, and you having to talk about it in this way is proving that, Kyle. It's such a flawed strategy.
With his view on the economy, which we know is always a huge issue for voters. It was in the midterms and will likely be again in 2024. And so they risk giving her attention, but also having to address this very real criticism that Biden has faced, that he is disconnected with everyday Americans who are going to the grocery store and seeing high prices on eggs and continue to feel the effects of inflation. And so it's certainly an annoyance to them, but I don't think we're expecting any other prominent Democrats, especially anyone holding public office, to jump into this race.
You're right. People should just remember the role Jill Stein played in 2016 for an example of a nuisance that someone on the left can be for a Democrat.
I can't believe he interjected that at the end about Jill Stein. That was a little eye-opening to me.
They brought up Jill Stein. Jill Stein ran in the Green Party. And what did she get? 2%, 1%, something like that. Some very low percentage of the vote.
She got more. She got more votes in the general election than Bernie Sanders did.
Yep.
That's the only thing that matters. There's one person who quit, and there's one person who continued the messaging campaign against the establishment. There's one person who got more general election votes, and that's Jill Stein. Period. You guys quit, and you guys taking it as a badge of honor. How many votes did Bernie get? What percent did Marianne Williamson get? Oh, they got none because they dropped out and endorsed Biden because they are cowards. So let's continue.
Is running as a Democrat. They can't make the argument anymore of, oh, it was a spoiler effect, spoiler effect. They trot out that spoiler effect argument. And by the way, it's a dubious argument at best anyway, but they trot it out when talking about third parties. This is Marianne Williamson running as a Democrat. Now, by the way, why is she running as a Democrat? I think the answer is very simple. She wants to win.
CJ, Kyle is so close. Oh, Kyle, you sweet summer child. You are so close to getting it. Oh, Kyle, you sweet summer child. It's almost like running a primary challenge against a president. They're going to treat you the same as a third-party candidate. It's almost like RBN was telling you guys that. So instead of running within the Democrat Party, you might as well run a third-party campaign. Kyle is so close to understanding that fact. He's like, and this is the point that Kyle was making, like, oh, my God, she's playing by the rules. She's playing by the rules. She's running as a Democrat. You guys still attacking her. Exactly the point. That's why you go third party, because they're going to treat you like shit anyway. But what you guys are doing, or you guys are misleading people by leading them to believe the Democratic Party is where change occurs. So, hey, look at me. I'm running the Democratic Party because progressive change is possible here. Let's go vote for Democrats. That is the end goal of what you guys are doing. which is way inferior than the same results you would get based on how the establishment treat you, but with the message that we need a working class revolution that is outside of two-party duopoly, which none of the boutique left is calling for.
At all.
Let's continue.
You know, if you run as a third-party candidate and you get 4% of the vote, you're doing phenomenally well compared to most modern attempts at a third-party candidacy. She doesn't want 4%. She doesn't think we have 40 or 50 years to build up a different party infrastructure in order to get the change that we need. She thinks we need the change
Bro, they've
right
been
now.
trying this strategy in the Democratic Party for decades. And then you guys just fail again. And then people like David Schroeder gonna be like, man, I've been working on this project for 15 years to get us Medicare for all, but we got no closer. So this is the same fallacy that they make. They say, oh my God, these third-party activists, they waste their time building a third party, as if the progressive movement in the Democratic Party was successful. If you've been spending your time trying to shift the Democratic Party to the left the last 10 years versus someone who spent their time advocating for third parties the last 10 years, the person who advocated for the third parties for the last 10 years was more efficient, got more done, whether you guys believe it or not. The fact that 50% of American people want a third party, the fact that people are more open to this, that shows that by any stretch of the imagination, by any objective fact, that they got more accomplished than you running as a progressive within the Democratic Party. So Kyle was saying that one is waste of time while the other one is worthwhile, and that's objectively not true. If you want to argue that third parties, like my friend Misty, you guys know I have no problem with Misty. Misty makes the argument that third parties is a waste of time. So I'm like, okay, I'm not mad at that because at least she's not taking resources from mutual aid. So what Kyle was saying is that third parties is a waste of time, but progressive Democrats is not. So I feel like you should be consistent here, because if you have both beliefs, that's okay. But I feel like having Kyle's position is ridiculous. Let's continue.
And Bernie Sanders, for all of his flaws, he got, I think it was 47% of the vote in the Democratic primary. Now, I'm no genius, but 47% sounds a hell of a lot higher than 2%. So she's right.
He's comparing, for his, I guess, low intellect people watching, he's comparing 46% of a primary to 2% of a national election. You see how it's misleading to compare percentages and raw numbers? Because 2% of 100 million people voting is a lot more than 46%. It is so low intellect and so like not even doing math that he thinks he's selling this point. Go ahead.
You want to know what else is extremely low intellect? Kyle Kulinski is spreading the idea that Marianne Williamson is going to get 40%. So what Kyle Kulinski is trying to tell you guys, that Marianne Williamson is she's gonna bring the band back. The Bernie coalition is back. We explained to you guys that shit is dead, as evidenced by me and my friends. So whether these guys want to admit it or not, unlike these couch potatoes, I quit my job and I knocked on thousands of doors for Bernie Sanders. And I know countless activists who did the same. You guys want to know the people who are light on Bernie Sanders in the squad? The people who still apologize for Bernie Sanders in the squad? The people like Kyle Kulinski who didn't do shit. You guys want to know the people who are most upset at Bernie? The people like me. The people who did the most. And I don't talk about this a lot. I don't like to my own horn. But I have done more for the Bernie Sanders movement than 99% of the movement. And that is a fact. I canvassed in multiple states, thousands of doors. The people who are most upset are the people who put the most work in because they sacrificed and they saw what we got for it. The people who benefit economically, like Kyle, is all for it. So you guys lost your on-the-ground support. The people who are most radical, like me, and I'm telling you guys, I know a lot of these people that are done. The same people that my crew in South Carolina that I traveled down there with to knock on doors with Bernie, they are done. So the only people that are still engaged in this shit, all the people who lost nothing, who sacrificed nothing. You guys think you're going to uplift Marianne Williamson to 40% while losing the left grassroots base? How does that make sense? Bernie put together a historic coalition, still couldn't get it done. But Kyle is promoting the hopium to his audience that Marianne Williamson is going to get 40%. He wants his audience, he wants his working class audience to donate their hard-fought money because he's trying to sell the idea that Marianne Williamson has a chance. That's disgusting. This is why RBN says a hard no. We believe in direct action and mutual aid to the point where we believe $0 should be stolen from that effort to waste time on electoral bullshit. If you want to raise money for electoral politics, it better be an ironclad plan. even if you got an ironclad plan, we're still going to push back against it. You guys have an incoherent plan to primary Biden, and people like Kyle Kulinski lie to his audience and make them believe that she got a chance to get 40% so they can donate to her. You guys see how they lead the workers on the cliff? It's not just nonsense. This is the professional managerial class leading workers off a cliff again. So my question I want to ask Kyle, which Marianne Williamson never answered, which no one ever answered. No one ever answered. I posed this question on Bad Faith podcast a month ago. Bree wasn't like debating me. She just asked me the question. If not mutual aid, then what? So I proposed this question. I've been doing it forever. Why should workers donate to the electoral politics campaigns that keep failing instead of donating that to mutual aid campaigns? Why not donate to a food bank? Right? They have no answer for that. They have zero answer for that. But Kyle's here to tell you that there may be a chance for Marianne Williamson, so maybe you should donate that $5. Don't do that to a third party. No point in doing mutual aid. But let's continue.
Running as a Democrat because she wants to win, but they're still using these bogus arguments of a spoiler effect. Remember what happened when we paid attention to Jill Stein? In other words, here's the argument. In other words, Marianne Williamson is going to help Donald Trump and the Republicans. That's what. Well, hold on. If 25% of voters want Biden to run again, why can't you say Biden is helping Republicans and Trump? He's not beloved. He's not liked. He's not what Americans want. So why wouldn't you use that same logic to say, well, obviously we need to make a change, or else you're helping Trump and the Republicans? They would never make that argument because, again, their job on MSNBC is to play defense for the corporate Democrats.
And you're to play defense for the progressive Democrats because the same exact argument you're making is the argument for the Green Party over the Democratic Party.
Like, and by the way, Kyle,
I don't get what he's saying.
Yeah, Kyle, I hate to break to you, but that's also AOC's job. So Kyle makes the accurate statement that MSNBC is here to do PR for corporate Democrats. Guess who was on Rachel Maddow after the State of the Union, Kyle? To do PR for a quote-unquote corporate Democrat. So this is why I dropped the term corporate Democrat. And you guys catch me using it every once in a while. I'm not perfect. I'm trying to decolonize my mind, right? I stopped using the term. What does that mean? Corporate Democrat. They all work for the same fucking thing. They all fund Ukraine. They're not rejecting Biden's agenda. Drop that term. That is a Democratic Social DSA term to plant the idea that there are good progressive Democrats. We know we are beyond that. So I try not to do it. I catch myself.
And to your point,
go ahead, CJ.
And to your point, and this is how you can break it down, because people might say, "What do you mean? They don't take any corporate money." Okay, let's do this. Let's give you an analogy, right? Let's not give you an analogy. They don't take corporate money, but then they go to Washington, D.C., and then they take orders from Hakeem Jeffries, who does take corporate money.
Yeah.
So what is the value in the worker, and this, not the worker, but the rep not taking money if they take orders from Hakeem Jeffries? And don't tell me they don't take orders from Hakeem Jeffries. Have you seen their votes? Did you see them vote for him?
Yep. So
what's the difference? It's worse that you're taking money from workers and not corporations and doing the bidding for corporations.
Exactly.
That's worse.
Exactly.
So let's finish out with Kyle. He got a couple of more points I want us to just kind of combat, and then we can close this out here.
This gets really, really interesting, guys. This is my favorite fact of the day that I'm about to share with you. So look at this. In the New Hampshire Journal, Pappas decries, quote, total betrayal by Biden, says New Hampshire Democrats will invite primary challengers. Wow. So now understand.
This is selling. This is so selling.
tickets.
That was nothing, man. What are you talking about?
That's a big bombshell. That's a big bombshell. That's the hopium that Kulinski. Unbelievable. I was like, and what's next? Jesus Christ.
New Hampshire
man.
Democratic Party. I mean, they are establishment Democrats. So why are they mad at Biden? Why are they effectively turning on Biden? Well, they're turning on Biden because Biden turned on them. Because Biden and the DNC decided, how can we rig the 2024 primary? Oh, I have an idea. Why don't we put South Carolina as the first contest? South Carolina is a red state. It's a red.
So that's our. You are telling us why we explained to you why Marianne Williamson has no chance. So Marianne Williamson is going to primary the president after again destroyed in South Carolina, so she has no momentum and a candidacy which will already be asked about their legitimacy. So if you're going to primary president, you need immediate legitimacy to pull that off. You cannot primary a president by losing the first primary by massive numbers, and then people are going to be like, "Oh, you already lost." So if you won that first state, then we got a conversation. Because then people would be like, "Oh shit, you won the first state," and that's why historically it's been shown people who won Iowa have a better chance of winning the election because other people will see them as winners, right? Marianne Williamson is going to start out this primary as a massive loser. I mean, she's going to get washed in South Carolina, and that not me saying that out of nowhere. Bernie got washed with way more support and way more time. So no one believes that Marianne going to do better than Bernie. So Marianne going to get destroyed at first race in historic numbers, and her campaign is going to be immediately considered a joke. So watch Kyle Kulinski completely ignore that fact and just do nothing but bitch and complain while still promoting this campaign that is dead on arrival for the very reasons he's giving. Let's continue.
I mean, let's follow through what, and we can bring this down. I'm going to stop the video. We can stop here. But let's follow through with what he's saying and what we know is fact. We know that South Carolina and other states have been switched around in Michigan. So let's go through his scenario. He wins South Carolina. He wins Michigan. He wins Iowa. And then Marianne Williamson wins New Hampshire. Okay. And what? She is still not making a debate stage. We haven't talked about this yet, Nick. You have to poll at a certain amount to even reach the debate stage. So she could be literally the only person in the race only polling at 5%, which is not enough to even get on a debate stage, sir. She is not going to even hit the debate. They just think because she's running, she's going to debate. No, you have to hit a certain threshold of money. And we're going to be the ones saying, don't donate to her. So she ain't hitting the money and she ain't hitting the polling. So she is never going to get on the debate stage, but she's going to extract what, 15 million from the working class? It's ridiculous, man. This is a vanity project that's going to cost the working class millions of dollars just for her to say vote for Joe Biden. And then Kyle Kulinski, who is right now acting like Joe Biden can't do it, will be the same person saying, make sure y'all vote for Joe Biden on November 7th in 2024. It'll be the same person. It's ridiculous what they're doing here, the Bernie industrial complex.
Last time I said we can finish. Oh, well, I think we're done. But last time I say, even if Marianne Williamson in this fantasy universe did qualify for the debates, why would they host her on the debate stage? Nigga, they literally screwed Tulsi Gabbard. You guys know that last debate was supposed to be, no matter how you feel about it, it's just a fact. That last debate was supposed to be Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and Tulsi Gabbard. Because Tulsi Gabbard missed the last debate because of polling numbers, but then the Democrats, they had it in the primary where once the voting start, they would change it to delegates. So before the voting start, it was only about polls. After voting, it was about delegates. So Tulsi got delegates because Hawaii and because New Hampshire, she got only a handful of delegates. So based on their rules, Tulsi was supposed to be part of that famous Bernie versus Biden debate. But then Democrats said, nah, I think it's better if it's just Bernie and Biden. So my question is, what's stopping them, even if Marianne hits this number, we're like, nigga, he's the president. You're not primarying the president. No debate. We're not going to weaken our candidate before Trump. That's going to be the excuse, and liberals going to go with it. We don't want to have a debate because we don't want to weaken our candidate before Trump. They're going to go with it because we all know the anti-democracy. Then what's the plan? At that point, we already millions of dollars in, the working class already donated.
Exactly.
See, what we're doing and it's obvious we were trying to cut the head off this electoral dragon before the motherfucker grow. You guys see what I'm saying? Yes. Before we wasted the millions. By the time Kyle Kulinski and the dumb left realize they stand no chance, we are gonna be $1 million in. And then they're gonna be like, man, the Democrats screwed us again. God damn it. Democrats screwed us again. $1 million in.
Right. While they go off to Cancun somewhere because they have money, and then the working class who put their money in blood and sweat and tears in trying to get somebody elected because they need material change. That's what these people don't get. The professional, they're not doing this as a hobby. These people aren't donating because let's donate to Bernie so he can tell me to vote for Joe Biden and send money to Ukraine. That's not what they're doing. They're sending money not for a chance. They're sending money because they're believing that this is going to materially change their lives, and people are not falling for that. And RBN is here to say, we're not going to let our people fall for this bullshit no more. No more of this at all. And that's my final word on it, Nick, if you have it.
At least not our people. And I think we can wrap there. I got a few stories, but I'll do it on RBN Live tomorrow. So CJ, I don't have any announcements. This week going to be kind of light. I don't have no guests because I'll prepare for my trip in Seattle, which I think I'll be able to record my speech. I already got a few people that say they're going to help me. So we see. So I'm super excited for that. So this week may be light, especially no guests. So we see. I got no guest announcements, but I should be here.
Let me just remind people, because there might be people that don't even know what's going on with you. This Saturday, is this Saturday, March 4th? Yeah, I think this Saturday or something. Sunday.
Yeah, they're having their big worker strike back launch event, and I think they're doing it in multiple cities. I was invited to speak at the Seattle one because they want the base, like what the Seattle headquarters. They want at least that launch to be big, right? Like they're gonna have a lot of different launch cities or whatever, but they want that to be like the big central place. So I'm supposed to be going there, meeting them, and giving a speech. But I'm very interested in picking their brains and seeing how we can help advocate for the workers as well. So that's coming up this Saturday. So I'll play by ear with you guys. I have no announcements in terms of content of the week, but you guys see me around. So CJ, I'll pass to you for any other announcements or anything else. I'll see you guys.
Absolutely.
See you guys.
All right.
Let me read.
Go ahead. Got a super chat or something?
Yeah, I saw one come in, so I was not a member. So I'll just read these two real quick because we don't got a ton. This guy left a few. Can you bring me on your show? Not sure you are, but there are a few more. Please engage in sober reexamination of your social relationships. If you get my meaning, there was a manifesto and it's going on the ground. There's another one. RBN has covered 2 data points recently on this sober reexamination. F me, but do bring this to Jimmy Dore's attention. Trust the process. So I don't know what you're talking about here. I'll be 100% honest. I do appreciate the super chats though. Trust the process that Marx and Lenin laid out. Proletarians take charge. Much appreciation. We don't. CJ said this a long time ago, and this is just in general. We really don't take like guest recommendations. But I appreciate the super chats and just in general. But
yeah, we don't want to discourage you from listening and watching us. And we know by the money symbol when you super chat, we know you're in another country. So we do appreciate all of your super chats. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think that last one that we didn't read, I just want to make sure I pull that one because I saw it. Anyway, I'll see you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. Have a good one.
All right, Nick. And I'm just going to send you out with a closeout video here. A lot of good, funny things, but I'll just play the video. There is a lot of good points here. That's 40 seconds. That's not the one I'm looking for. That's a lot of good, funny videos here, but I'll play one. Oh, Lord, not that guy. I like to do this at the end of the show just to see if there's any stories that just are breaking that I might want to put up. It doesn't look like nothing or anything is breaking too much. So I'm going to assume it's not. Okay, so, all right, I'll leave it there.
San Francisco has built its biggest bargaining team in its history. They are fighting for full staffing, more student support, and raises for paraeducators and other low-paid staff.
We're united in our fight for the schools our students deserve and the jobs that we deserve to have now.
We're not hiring teachers. We're not retaining them. There has been so much mismanagement from this district, and that is actually directly impacting us not being able to fully staff our schools.
We don't have paraeducators in our classrooms. Our students with special needs aren't getting the full education they deserve.
My son, who has therapy, has experienced a lapse in his therapy due to increased caseloads and them not being able to take him on.
Many of our educators were not getting the correct pay. We're not even getting paid.
Our custodians, our student nutrition workers, our clerks, and our classified members are 16% behind their counterparts on the city side. That is not fair. It's time for pay equity.
Every single person in this world wants to learn and can learn, but you can't learn if you don't have the ability to come into a class that's fully staffed, that's fully supported.
And if you're not taking care of yourself, then it's hard for you to take care of the kids